feel it deep flowing through my blood. Rising up to become someone, and taking it all on my own. What a sweet victory. And taking all of my control, awaken something deep in me.
Like flames, feel it burning inside. Take a hold in pursuit of the prize. I've been told ain't no way to survive, keeping all of this fire that's locked up inside. When this is the time, enter the ring. All those mental chemicals doing their thing. I got flashes of battles inside of my dreams. I was made for this moment. At least now it seems like it's time to come face to face with your fear. Been battling reasons for all of the years, and I learned how to fight them with style and grace no one's ever encountered. You say it's amazing, I'ma come out swinging when they open the gate. Go ahead, call passion, I'm calling it rage. I'm taking what's mine like I already own it. Watch but don't blink, going here to the moment.
The sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are, you are. Here's to the moment, the sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are, you are.
My name is honor, my name is king, my name is champion, my name is strength.
Tell them who you are.
My name is Pentakill, you think it's strange? My name keep ringing inside of your brain.
I hear it every line. Here's to the moment the sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. So tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Here's to the moment the sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are, you are. Here's to the moment the sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for game number 2 between Star Court and Twisted Minds, where Twisted Minds very victorious in their first game. And, you know, the manner that they did it in, they picked well, we called it an ultimate battle draft, because in those scenarios, you get to pick anything you want. And the way that the draft occurred, it almost seems like that Twisted Minds were able to pick anything they want. They got Ogren, they got Mai, they got Long, a very powerful scaling composition, and it was a challenge for MKOI to see if they could shut this team down early on and steamroll them. And unfortunately for the North American squad, they were not able to do so, and Twisted Minds were overall the superior team.
It was a challenge indeed. MKOI looked like they built up a pretty good amount of steam in the mid game, but once those characters all got online, they're all individually S-tier threats. You can stop one of them, you can set the Agron behind, but then you gotta worry about the Long, the Mai is coming back in there too. So that's why that's such a strong composition. Very bold decision for MKOI to have draft play out that way. They prioritized the Dolia and the Dune over picks like the Long and the Agron. But now on the bright side for them, Twisted Minds can no longer pick all the strong characters. They were all basically expended in the same game, and MKOI still has them all available.
Yeah, now MKOI got to dig deep and be able to find the mental resolve to bring a strong game 2 against Twisted Minds. I have to remind everyone at home that MKOI have not won a single series yet so far. This is overall their 4th series of the tournament, if I am not mistaken. And they were able to at least take one game off of Virtus Pro in their respective series, but still eventually losing overall. And for the side of how ranking week and survival week works, this is a single round robin between all 7 teams, best of 3. The top 3 teams immediately go into the top group, S group, whereas the 4 bottom teams have to then fight for their lives in the survival week, which is starting next week. And if you don't make it out as the top team of that bottom group, you're eliminated. No more tournament play from you. And MKOI definitely don't want to be one of the 3 teams that gets eliminated after survival week.
MKOI very likely to go into that Group A, as you mentioned, where only 1 team makes it out. Spirits look a little bit low here on the side of MKOI. Unfortunately, after a loss, you cannot help it, but you need to dig deep and find something within to clean out this set.
Deep breaths for the side of MKOI, whereas for Twisted Minds, business as usual. These guys continue quite where a lot of pressure was, put to the test against their bot lane of Shanks and Catboy, but being able to rally behind the team for control around the map, installing long enough to come online now. We're into the second game for the draft phase. First bans coming out already. Twisted Minds not going to make the same decision that MKOI did in leaving the My Shurnoi open. They banned that first thing, and MKOI, a little bit of respect to Clean, taking away the Jing as well as the Dahlia away from Cap.
MKOI also seems to be one of the teams that prioritizes Dahlia a lot. First picking it, first banning it. A lot of teams seem to enjoy Diadea a bit more, but they're one of the teams that like Dahlia and the synergy that it brings, so they go ahead and remove that, as we see Arlie and Mai being banned out from Twisted. Pretty standard bans from the T2 here.
Arlie continues to be a staple in these draft phases. Picked or banned, still maintaining that 100% draft presence rate. MKOI thinking about their first pick. Some power picks available. We know that things like
Even here, I must remain true to who I am.
Minds, but obviously you want to be able to build a solid composition around it and not leave open a lot of crowd control as available answers for the other side. So they are going to lock in the Dharma here for Muaji as their blind pick.
I would like to see Twisted Minds maybe take away some of these utility mid laners that work really well with the Agron. As MKOI knows, Twisted Minds can no longer play it, and it is not banned, so it's likely going to be picked along with the mid laner here with the second and third pick, as Twisted goes ahead and locks in the Liang Po and Mei Yin, giving MKOI the option to go Argon Princess Frost potentially.
Yeah.
I am Ogron,
MKOI,
Seer.
I think, are on the same wavelength as you for the most part, but instead, not the Princess Frost quite yet for Ken Tao. They're going to leave it up for the second round of picks and bans, whereas trying to secure this long for Luli in the farm lane, and MKOI going to try to play a scaling game this time around, but Twisted Minds thinking about bringing a little bit of early power alongside the amount of CC that Liang Po brings with that Tremor Smash, and it is the D-Renja, very infamous for being able to bring man.
D-Renji also great in compositions that deal a lot of physical damage, like the Liang Po and the Mei Yin, as he can reduce their defenses, and any tanks that MKOI will bring out here to round out their team, or maybe even the Agron, he can go ahead and shut down with that ultimate and make them a lot more vulnerable for his teammates.
Motsu banned off the board. Respect ban for the pay as well. MKOI just trying to eliminate any aggressive junglers for Clean to be able to pilot. They are very well aware of what kind of pressure could be laid down against Ogren early on. And it would be a big hindrance to MKOI's ability to scale. Lady Jen also being banned off the table from Twisted Minds, so limiting both the support pool as well as the mid lane pool.
MKOI given 3 bans over the side of Clean's junglers here, and Twisted with the Lady Jen ban tells me that they're likely to pick a Princess Frost potentially to remove those utility mid laners away from Agron, make them pick a little bit more of a resource heavy mid laner so that they have to fight for their farm a little bit. Let's see what happens though.
Yeah. See Hailong on camera right now talking to the rest of his team, and we've seen this hero a few times, not that many, but it's the Nuwa for Hailong in the mid lane.
I'm very surprised by Nua picked. With how draft went, I was almost certain he was going to go ahead and pick up the Princess Frost, but since they do not pick it up, MKOI goes in and takes it. One of the best bread and butter combos here. Agron, Princess Frost. Princess Frost able to get those boots of deafness, move around the map, and support the team, and feeding all those mid lane minions to the Agron here. As Zhongfei gets potentially locked in here as well, too.
Winter is here.
They're hovering, they're figuring out.
Oh, Yuan's locked in.
Wow. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure what this hero does. I haven't seen it that often. I know it has been picked a couple times if I look back through my table sheet here. No, don't do it to be clean. Don't. I'm gonna wait for the confirmation to lock in. But to be fair, MKOI have banned out all 3 of Clean's top junglers in the Jing, the Pei, and the Luna. And Clean is might as well saying, you know what? I'm still going to reach into this back pocket. I've still got heroes that you guys do not know about. And Fade, being the newest addition to the roster of Honor Kings, is once again going to make his way to the Gorge.
There we go, Clean locking in the Fade, getting ready to run a Fade here. Yuan is one of the most well-rounded characters, being able to flex into 3 roles. It is going to be on Roam currently, but it has a little bit of everything. It's a little bit tanky, it does some damage, it has some sustain for its team. Very well-rounded hero, and the sustain from it is definitely important here to try and sustain the Dharma and the Agron as they go in, as they will be getting shut down by the D-Renji.
For me, the coolest thing about seeing the Fade lock-in is just whenever I see these junglers pilot it and how well they can use the parkour ability. I don't know if it's actually called parkour, but to me, that's what he's doing. He's scaling walls. He's the only hero and one of the few characters I've seen in any title that, like, not just, you know, scales walls and terrain, but he actually, like, walks on top of it. That is such a cool before, and already, at least thanks to Dao over on OG, we've gotten a chance to see how slippery, how mobile this hero can be.
They banned out 3 of Clean junglers, but he has a whole toolbox full of them, and they're all incredibly hard to play, in my opinion. Fade, one of the most mechanically intensive junglers here, having to manage your auto attacks, jumping in between walls. You have a limited amount of jumps, and if you run out of them, you're stuck on the wall, you know? So I'm interested to see how Clean goes and pilots the Fade here. Traditionally, it is built in competitive, a little bit more tanky, actually, with some stuff like the Burning Cape after Acts of Torment, but maybe Clean just goes full damage because he's Clean.
Could be. I'm gonna have to pull up Fade abilities real quick and just see what this guy does exactly. I just know that he's on these walls and then he's just doing some BS. That I'm just gonna plainly put that out there. But you know what?
Yeah.
As you called it, we're gonna see if Clean on the Fade can run a Fade on MKOI real quick as we lock into the Gorge for game number 2 of the series.
Fade, one of the newer characters here, so maybe I'll give a quick rundown for it for everyone that it is new to, because it is one of the newest ones, right? Fade's skill 2 is the most notable ability for him. It lets him jump onto a wall. It gets multiple charges. He can interchange between any wall in the game, which makes him extremely mobile. The skill 1 jumps off with a nice little short dash and CC, and the ultimate puts a mark on you that when he goes ahead and cashes in, executes you if enough damage is dealt.
Hang on! Demon Cat and MKOI were trying to look for a quick yoink of the buff here, and to his credit, he got the red buff, but then the rest of Twisted Mind said, you can't be here, this is illegal, and they push him out, they get the first blood, and now Demon Cat step behind off of the invade.
Teams are starting to wisen up with how Argon kind of clears and goes throughout the map. They want to get these invades down early to get himself extra resources, but if you get caught like that, it'll set you really far behind. I was mentioning in a prior series that people should start to take notes and set up these 5-point defenses so that doesn't happen for free, and it seems like Twisted Minds has that covered.
Yeah, credit to Catboy, who kept full vision of the invade, that it was happening the entire time, giving up his pressure and presence on the bottom side, and knowing that he could do that since Shanks on the D-Renja should have the push into something like long early on, and Twisted Mind just making the collapse happen. Now it is Clean with both of the buffs on hand, trying to see if he can continue leveraging that pressure on the other side of the map.
CT Boy goes ahead and catches Goose here on rotation. Not much comes of it. Both supports relatively tanky. I'm excited to see how his Fade goes ahead and plays into the map here too. A little bit of action bot lane here, not much happening. A lot more action in the top here as Moji forced to use a Truth Mantra just to get Nightly off of him.
Jeez. Swanchy feeling the pressure of 90s Maine. You see Shanks himself on the bottom side contesting for that Phoenix. It does go the way of MKOI, but here comes Catboy just creating some space and bullying Goose away. We saw a potential roam from Hai Long, just fishing for any picks with the Nuance, giving up some pressure in the mid lane. There's an opportunity for Employ to at least look for something on the top side to make a fast collapse on the bottom side to relieve any pressure that Goose and Luli are facing right now. And that's exactly what happens. Kento just making sure that his bot lane is relieved.
Nyangpo kind of caught by 3 people. Does he have the skills to go over the wall? He does. So it takes a lot of damage, but goes in and gets out. But if you remember last game, Miyagi actually played the Mei Yin, and it didn't really work out. So Knightley might be saying, here, let me go ahead and pick the Mei Yin and show you how to play it.
Oh, ooh. A little bit of, you know, subtle trash talk in that way. I know we definitely saw some when we saw the Pei Ogren swap-a-roo between one of the series yesterday. Meanwhile, Shanks under fire. Super low to falling, but thankfully Catboy is able to create enough space thanks to the CC in Liampo's kit. Gives Shanks a chance to
both these supports are a little bit more level 4 focused, as their level 1s, 3 are not as strong. So once these ultimates come out, we're going to see a lot more action going on.
Yeah. A little taste of that action in the mid lane. Twisted Minds are getting a little scrappy with Demon Cat. Force the Conductor's Souls to pop. Employ's jungler does survive. This opens up some pressure. Twisted Mind is going to now chance it, trying to start up this Tyrant. Employ fighting for space. Catboy creates some pressure, forced to flash away immediately as he had overextended himself a little too far, and now it's Employ trying to burn down this Tyrant, and they will secure it for themselves.
Twisted seems like they were baiting the Tyrant there, but they may have bit off more than they can chew as MKoi comes in with full force and goes in and secures it right in front of them.
Yeah, you saw Muaji ready to commit that full roam on the bottom side. And because 90 was committed to the tower, they give the Tyrant as a response. Does not open up the tier 1 quite yet, but it's super low. You saw in the picture-in-picture camera there. Looked like 90 was almost super close. Meanwhile, bot side, yeah, Luli's gonna force to pop the flash as well as the infinite vastness. Does escape danger and denies another kill over to Twisted Minds.
It seems like the longer Knightley's left with Maji here, the Mei Yin is going to be bullying the Dharma as we see some fights go on in the top lane. That tower is on 1 HP. It might go down here any second now. Mei Yin actually ends up taking a tower and getting a teleport into the mid lane.
Oh, shoot. MKoi trying to at least equalize the pressure on all sides of the map, but at some point, Twisted Mind find a window where they can break it, and what a cool hero, man. Clean, just being able to pole vault from one wall to another, put some pressure down, throw down some Jade daggers, and then just parkour right on back to the safety of his own tower. Meanwhile,
Maji coming in here, Truth Mantra comes out and catches Knightley and gives over the kill to Demon Cat there. Fade is an extremely strong character when it comes to these compositions that don't have much targeted abilities. Only really Luli on the Liang can get him later, on the Long can get him later on. In the mid game, while he's not joining fights, it's really hard to catch him.
Right. Blue buff secured by Demon Cat, and he even gets the execute on Clean's Fade as well, but now he's trying to run away from Shanks. Just needs one more auto attack, but no flash available. He'd already expended it, and somehow Demon Cat is able to survive, walk away from the fight. Twisted Minds now suffering a little bit of the overextension they had, and Employ really trying to put the pressure on them.
Yeah, Fade's super hard to catch, but as you can see here, Long actually joined that fight. All these auto attacks cannot be dodged. Doesn't matter what wall you're on, the Flaming Palms will hunt you down, and he did get hunted down there. And Demon Cat also happened to have the passive on him and got him executed.
Yeah, for the first time, it seems like this game, Twisted Minds now on the back foot. Employ being able to reliably snowball that pressure off of the successful skirmish in the bot side jungle into a tier 1 into the bot lane. Meanwhile, fight on the top jungle. Oh, Demon Cat was just trying to farm some wolves, man, but he can't even get a piece of that pie as the rest of Twisted Minds make him eat knuckle sandwich for lunch there, as the rest of Employ now trying to continue the pressure and fighting back for control of this topside quadrant in the jungle. But Twisted Minds still pushing the line here.
I would think I was safe there too. Demon Cat was squarely inside of his jungle here when all those Twisted Minds went ahead and reacted and collapsed upon him there. Knew a teleport as well as CT Boys CC going ahead and close them out.
Red team has
Picture in picture, you can see Clean actually splitting off the bottom side of the map. We've seen this as a pattern from not just Clean, but also Dowdow on the OG squad. Whenever things are not necessarily going super well for them in the early game and they're not creating that massive snowball, then you start taking side lane farm. You ensure that your economy is still good. And to be fair, he is 1,000 gold up on the Ogren. But Demon Cat at least is scaling through this early stage of the game, not completely shut down. It's not a massive gold deficit on the side of MKOI, whereas for Twisted Minds, you know, we feel like that there should be a little more urgency to create some of these successful plays, as maybe Tremor Smash used by Catboy gets into the thick of it all, but Mwaji is going to punch 90 right in the gut thanks to that truth mantra, and Clean just could not collapse into the fight to save his team in time.
CT Boy invested so much flash, ultimate, everything on Luli, but there's just not enough follow damage to take him out while he was crowd controlled. Clean with the fade actually has a great lead over Demon Cat now, and what we've seen in the past is when Clean has a lead on his junglers, either Jing or Luna, he actually swaps with his Clash laner and pushes out the side lanes because he knows no one can 1v1 him and sends someone like Nightly to join these team fights.
Oh, and there's a big fight here in the mid lane. They get a chance to re-engage off of the pressure. Twisted Minds able to at least find Kentao before the rest of MKOI scram. There was a flash burn from Luli on long, able to save the Infinite Vastness for another pick if he needs it to escape. MKOI still down about 2,000 gold off the back of the pick, but they're finding ways to come back as DT Boy a little too far forward. Pops the Tremor Smash to run away. Goose is picked off on the side, and Shanks continuing the pressure as the rest of Twisted Minds able to capitalize on MKOI just stepping too far forward.
CT Boy, some might say that was calculated, barely gets away with 1 HP and actually ends up baiting Mwaji and Goose to going down.
All right, you know what? I guess that's what Mayim can do, you know, when she's ahead. I have yet to see the power of this hero, at least, you know, here on day 3, but 90 getting a chance to just solo dive the high ground turn on the bot side, and now they're continuing to do it again. Kentao's got no room to grow. He was between 2 towers, Yumus, and yet he was still not safe.
Has destroyed
It looks like Luli also was not aware of what Nightly could do in the main, as he couldn't even get out of there with a flash or ultimate. Potentially his ultimate was down, I'm not sure. He just died so quickly there when Maidion's combination latched onto him. As both teams are going for an objective trade here.
They're doing both objectives. They have half of their squad doing the Overlord, and at least Twisted Minds were trying to finish off the Tyrant at the same time, but it didn't look like they had enough damage nor enough confidence to solo it with smaller numbers compared on the bottom side. So they're just gonna be content with the fact that they got the Shadow Overlord picked up here. They're gonna have the Vanguards pouring in for extra map pressure, and maybe the next successful fight Twisted Minds can look for the Shadow Tyrant.
I actually thought it was a trade. It seems like Twisted was trading with himself there as they were trying to take both objectives at the same time.
I mean, that's just the kind of map state we're in. It's only 3,000 gold, and yet off of that one big fight in the dive in between the 2 towers in the mid lane, Twisted Minds were ready to ball and see how much they could push their limits there. A lot of space being created by Hanlong on the Nua, just creating space for Twisted Minds and ensuring that MKOI do not feel safe to walk up past just the outer ring of their base.
Mwaji has not had the best series so far, but he's on Dharma, one of those picks that can make or break the game in an instant. Even though they're down 4,000 gold, all it takes is one good game-changing truth mantra to turn that on its head.
Yeah, it goes by Twisted Minds, putting pressure in the mid and bot lane with the Shadow Vanguard spawning on the top side to maintain equal pressure on every side of the map. This high ground turret is just about to fall in the Clash lane. Meanwhile, MKOI just doing the best they can to soak up any resources that is given to them, but they don't have access to the jungle camps anymore. Twisted Minds are pretty much setting up camps for themselves in there. They have full control of the outer reaches of the base, and now the Shadow Vanguard is just punching through the health bar of Demon Cat as they pretty much give most of their health bars just to stave it off from being able to take the high ground tower.
The map is basically being completely controlled by Twisted here, as if 6 towers to the 1 on the side of MKOI. We've seen MKOI in this situation before. They're still able to win fights in this situation, as long as they can maintain these high ground towers. Once they lose them, though, we have seen MKOI usually struggle to fight outside of their base. So they need to do whatever's possible to maintain these high ground towers so they have a chance to win.
Yeah. I get flashbacks to the series yesterday where all the high ground turrets were gone. It was super late game, and it just took one instance where they weren't checking for a split pusher, just riding in that last wave and finishing the game. The backdoor potential is always a threat you have to be concerned about. And if MKOI can at least hold on to the high ground towers, as you talked about, they avoid that threat for now. But Twisted Minds, knowing that MKOI cannot step out safely outside of their base, that's a free Shadow Tyrant that they secure for themselves. And now Twisted Minds resume the siege once again.
Goose goes in and gets caught out here, but Nua is forced to use that ultimate here as more waves are being pushed into MKOI's side.
A lot of damage expended onto Ludley's health bar there. We'll get a chance to recall and so go back to full HP here. Twisted Minds definitely not being insanely aggressive with the siege here, just taking their time, waiting for a window, using their long-range abilities and skills to chunk out these health bars and then create a window here. But it's all just about the pressure of these waves pouring in. There is a wave that is kind of pushed up into the neutral state on the bottom side of the map, so I imagine that someone from Twisted Minds will get a chance to correct it before they resume the 3-man full press.
One of the weaknesses here for MKOI, as identified by ALO Gaming yesterday, is their wave management is not the best, and Twist is taking advantage of that as well, having all the waves constantly push on MKOI's side, not allowing them to leave base. And once you have them trapped in base, it seems like MKOI gets a little bit lost in what they need to do.
Yeah, you see all 5 of them committed to just making sure that they're all safe in correcting and catching the wave on the bottom side of the map. But this opens up the top side completely free for Twisted Minds to just take the next spawn of this Overlord. And once again, they're going to get access to Vanguards pushing in all 3 lanes. They'll have a Shadow Vanguard as well to create even more pressure. And MKOI, they are just praying. They are holding on for dear life, just trying to continue to soak up resources whenever they can get them and hope that the fight that they take is as advantageous for them as possible.
This next fight is likely to decide the game here, as no matter what happens, MKOI is likely to lose some high ground towers. If they don't clean wipe Twisted here and trade back some objectives for those towers here, they are permanent and they will slowly get choked out even more, as they're now down almost 7,000 gold.
MKOI, last stand, backs against the wall. Can they pull it off? Already, they found 1 pick on the high long. It's looking good for MKOI. 5 versus 4 on the board right now. They're going to continue the pressure as Sunlight goes in, tries to occupy space, but Goose immediately cat his neck, and just like that, the first high ground tower falls. Boy jumped on by Muaji, but cannot find a killing blow. The rest of Twisted Minds, yes, they lost their mid laner, but they're able to trade back too, and now they're the ones with the numbers advantage, and they still have the Vanguards pushing in on all 3 lanes. They continue to seize, they continue the pressure, and just like that, as you foreboded, Yumu, their high ground towers are gone. The crystal is exposed.
That should be all she wrote here, MKOI. Now they're in the same situation that they're in yesterday, where they have lost all their high ground towers. Twisted is actually playing for the end here, it looks like. They're not giving them a chance to draw out a 23-man game like ALO Gaming. They're ending it right now.
2-0 sweep for Twisted Minds. The Flash Tremor Smash from Liempo on the last push by CT Boy just creates the space, as you called it out. They were not concerned with buffing up their KDAs. They were just ready to clean the series out and finish the game. And just like that, Twisted Mind add another dub to their overall series score, and MKOI continue to fall down the ladder.
Unfortunately for MKOI, they cannot secure a win here. What I've noticed between the games I've seen of them, they over-invest a little bit too much on the defense. And while that's a good job of making sure everyone stays alive for these wave clears, it also makes it you're not getting on the map, you're not pushing the waves out. You're constantly stuck in this cycle of clearing out your base and letting the enemy team take free reign over your jungle, over these objectives, and these hammers that are shadow overlords constantly flying into your base, and one hammer too late and then you lose.
Yeah, MKOI really have their work cut out for them. We highlighted it at the top of the day that it was not going to be the easiest road for their 2 series today, since, you know, realistically, based on strength of schedule and based on the resumes that the teams were kind of walking into the Major West League with, their easiest matches were yesterday. Their hardest matches are today. And the fact that they have not been able to find one is really daunting for their chances of being able to, you know, at least make it to the top of the bottom group. Because at this point, I think with 4 series losses, it is impossible to make it to the top group. So now all you can do as MKOI is try and learn as much as you can, take each game and, you know, get as much experience possible and, you know, level up as much as you can so that you are ready for the survival week, because that is where, you know, MKOI could still have a chance to make a miracle run to that top seed, as that will be the story for our other 3 teams that are in that bottom group with them.
Absolutely, yeah. After losing 4 sets, it is unfortunately impossible for them to go ahead and get into that Group S where they're all guaranteed in. Now they just, as you mentioned, have to prepare to the fight for the death, where only one group can get out of Group A here. Unfortunately for this game here, it was pretty even up until it was not. MKOI's Miyagi couldn't really get anything done in either of these games. He seems like a fairly momentum-driven player, where the games, even he has lost before, when he gets ahead, he stays ahead and keeps a good KDA even despite a loss. But these 2 games here, Twisted Minds seem to have done a good job of not letting him get ahead and keeping him shut down.
Oh, they've been super dominant, and Twisted Minds, it just adds more excitement and hype to the upcoming series tomorrow between OG and Twisted Minds. 2 different iterations of Team Vitality from 2024. OG being the latest iteration of Team Vitality that competed at S3 Invitational, and of course the Team Vitality that was competing at the Mid-Season Invitational 2024, as well as the World Championship last year. And our MVP for the game is CT Boy. I've been saying Catboy. I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong. If I'm wrong calling him Catboy, I apologize. You know, we'll figure it out later on. But this guy on the Lianpo, I mean, I don't play roam, but if I would play support, I would lock in Lianpo, because it looks like this guy is just so damn reliable at being able to find engages, find windows and picks, and even if your team is in a bad spot, you can at least create space with the amount of CC and knockups this guy has in his kit.
City Boy with a beautiful 007 KDA coming out, and that's probably the highest damage taken number I've seen yet. 40% damage taken of him, doing his job as a tank and not going down either.
And it all started in the early game, just being able to get so much value on this Lianpo. I'm surprised he actually never had a death this entire game. I swear I saw CT Boy in danger of dying multiple times in fight. Like right here! The fact that he's able to make it out alive, he knows his limits, he knows how far he can push a fight on this hero before he has to fail. But every health that he is able to expend without dying is so valuable, because it is just more time for the rest of your team to execute their game plan, the way that they're fighting out their sides of the skirmish as well. So CT Boy, that is a support that you want to look up to. If you're climbing in solo queue and you're trying to figure out how can I get better as a roamer, look at this guy's VODs. Look at CT Boy, man, the way he's able to pilot this Lianpo.
Yeah, no deaths, and he's going headfirst into the action every single time, taking 40% of team damage. As I've mentioned, probably a record here on the broadcast in the West League, and using all of his health effectively, burning all the enemy cooldowns, so when his team goes in, they have nothing left for them, and they clean it up and makes it an easy game.
Yeah, stellar performance from CT Boy on Lianpo. And shout out to Twisted Mind once again for knocking out another 2-0 for their overall series score. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it is time for our third series of the day. Stay tuned.
In Hero's Gorge, the base is the spring of life. In the real world, every forest and plant is the Earth's spring of life. The base nourishes the gorge, just as Earth's ecosystems sustain all life. If the base is exhausted, heroes will lose their home. If ecosystems are destroyed, all life loses their habitat. Honor of Kings is working with players worldwide to support real-world environmental causes and protect our planet's future. By participating in Protect Nature, Protect All Life, all efforts in the event will contribute to real-world causes, protect the environment, and let us defend the honor of our planet together.
Excuse me.
Hugging stings. Victory.
Another round. Sure, but how about a smoother foam next time?
Realme 14, performance beyond limits.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for our third series of the day between Next Ruya, the representatives of Turkey, and Virtus Pro, the representatives of Kazakhstan. Now, both of these teams, Yumus, this might just be our most competitive series of the day.
For sure, our first two matches were fairly one-sided, but now we see teams are a little bit closer here in the seeding. Next Ruya and Virtus Pro. They both definitely could take this here. I'm not too sure what happened, but I'm very interested in seeing next picks. They're one of the few teams that picked Han Shin, a unique character. I'm always trying to see some unique characters on here, characters that we see in our regular day-to-day games here. Yeah. I always remember going against Han Shins and they invade my jungle, and I want to see Ruya play it to perfection.
I sense a little bit of saltiness there. You know, you're not experiencing the fun part of the Hanshin matchup there, Yumu? What's going on?
Not as much. Basically, he just invades my jungle and my team does not help me and flames me from it. Hopefully that does not happen to Virtus Pro. Hopefully it doesn't happen to anyone, actually. I do not wish that upon anyone, but I would like to see it happen today, though.
Does the Yumu's gang get on your case about that if you ever died at jungle invades?
Jungle invades? I never died at jungle invades 1v1, but when the entire enemy team swings everyone into my red buff and hides in my bush, I get a little bit heated here, as most people should, okay? If you do not get heated about that, something is up with you.
You know, I feel the same way. If, like, I see 3 people invading me when I'm just doing my blue buff, I quick pan over the entire map. It's like, where's my team? Where's my team? And if they're at least pushing lanes and getting damage on turrets, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. You know, they gave up lane pressure and my laners might benefit. But I see this a lot. If I see my laners like backing off a minion wave and not pushing when their enemy lane is missing, I'm just like, what are we doing? Come on, guys. I'm getting invaded. I'm getting completely yoinked out of my jungle and we're not putting pressure on the map. You see that? Like, please. You can understand the frustration, but of course we gotta get ready for our third series. Our first team on the blue side, Next Ruya. Check them out.
See the fire in your eyes. You gotta fight for it all. Let's go. The battle's calling. You better give it all you got. You gotta fight for it. The time is right for you to raise a bar. Yeah. 'Cause you could be the greatest of them all. Yeah. Let's go. The battle's calling. You better give it all you got. You gotta fight for it.
Now, the cool thing about this roster, the representatives of Turkey in Next Ruya, is that they were actually in a qualifier that was the same qualifier to the Season 3 that was as Team Vitality, and eventually lost the spot to Team Vitality, and being able to overperform everyone else's expectations during that qualifier, which is what is kind of, you know, giving everyone a little bit of excitement about this roster, that these guys can be a potential dark horse and do some damage. A lot of the heroes, as you already mentioned, a little bit more creative and different from the other pools of other heroes you moves. I know you already mentioned Han Shin for jungler and Tix, but some other picks that kind of jump out as well. I think something that we haven't seen in other Clash laners are like the Sun Se.
Yeah, Next Ruya, one of the teams that we've seen the least on broadcast here, so they're a bit of a wild card. We're not too sure of their playstyles yet, and I'm very interested to find out. We've seen them play one game yesterday versus one match versus OG, and in typical OG fashion, they did end that game very rapidly. But now we have a little bit more of an even set here, so I'm interested to see how a drawn-out game plays with them.
Yeah, and I think they had another off-stream series against 9Z Globin where I think they did eventually drop the series, but it was 2-1. They made it at least somewhat competitive against the Argentinian squad, so they still have plenty of series to play out in the next couple of days. We'll definitely have to see how they're able to perform against their opponents on the red side in Virtus Pro. Get a chance to see their intro video when it is available. We're taking a look down on all the cameras here, checking out all the team members from the Turkey squad.
Yeah, Next Ruya seems to be in great spirits here. All of them equipped with the real me's here and having a bit of banter before the game goes down. Looks like the staff is helping them finish up some technical difficulties potentially here as they get ready for the next game. Coach is there with the team sheet. Oh, that would be really helpful. I should print out one of those so they don't accidentally tell teams to pick something that's already banned or picked prior. For best of sevens, we're gonna need those.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to keep track of so many heroes, especially in a global pick ban system that we're in for this season. There's just so many heroes that can be taken off the board after a long grueling series that by the time you get to game 5 or game 6, there's like at least 30 heroes that you can no longer play. But for now, we're going to take a look over at the other team on the red side in Virtus Pro.
And here is Virtus Pro, their opponents here, being led by Red in the mid lane, Alim in the jungle, Prince in the farm lane, Grizzly Q on Roam, and Sishi on to the Clash lane here. Really enjoyed their performance yesterday. They actually ended up having one of the closest matches against Mkoi 2-0. Very, very back and forth. We saw a lot of damage come out. Very excited to see some of Red's picks today. He played some Ganon Mo, he played some Shi. So very interested to see what he picks up for the Bears.
Yeah, and some of the other heroes that this guy has not gotten the chance to lock in, but are some of his favorites. Some things like the Nua, which we just got a chance to see in our previous series, but also something like the Zia, which I'm not super familiar with that hero. I know what he looks like. It's like an old man. It kind of looks like he's got the sauce though. Like he's spent, most of his days learning all the wisdom that he could accumulate, but I'm not sure what his skills do. So if we see it busted out in this series, then definitely have to take a look on my second monitor and look through the skills just to familiarize myself with them. But across the board here, when we look at Nextruya and Virtus Pro and why we're so excited to see this series in particular and why it's going to be probably the most competitive, it's because it's not involving any of the the top teams, but Virtus Pro and Nextruya have been having at least shown some competitiveness in the limited series they've had so far in the tournament. Either one of these teams could be trying to make a break point for that 4th slot, or not necessarily 4th slot, but maybe make a break for the 3rd slot in that top group against 9Z Global.
These more middling standing teams games are the ones that are actually the most impactful. We all know that OG with 4 set wins is going to go ahead and lock up Group S here. But these teams, every single win matters. One win can help them tie break over into Group S and be alive and escape the Group A group of death there. As we see NRX going ahead and banning the Diadea, Grizzly Q's signature pick, and VP with a pretty standard My ban to retaliate.
Man, too. So 2 supports off the back trying to limit Grizzly Q's hero pool. The Arlie, kind of the standard alongside the Mai, as you called out. And Nextruya might just be going for a classic Dharma blind pick here. Still hovering though, taking their time to talk through all their options, but it is confirmed.
Dharma is likely to not win its lane, usually goes even if not lose, but always having that impact late game ahead or behind with those truth modules. A pretty safe blind pick, all said and done here. But do you want to use your first pick on a safe blind pick when a lot of priority targets like the Long, the Argon are still available?
Ooh, Chano will be making his way to the Gorge once again. This tournament has been picked a few times, and Sakir making another appearance as well. We saw the value of that in our first series of the day.
The obstacles in my path.
Meanwhile, Nextruya, they're going with the Jing, the assassin jungler for Tix.
And
Ryuga is picking up Lady Sun more than likely for Void in the farm lane of choice now. Virtus Pro still have a chance before we get into the second round of bans to lock in a jungler of choice, which seems to be the Hover and
Here
the Call.
comes the bear.
And the Gudo is the choice for Alim.
Interesting drafts from both sides here. NRX and VP seem to be handshaking. Hey guys, let's not ban or pick any of the OP characters here. Long, Argon. We've seen enough of those games. All right, let's just handshake and not remove or pick any of them, it seems. And let's play some fun stuff like the Chano, the Agudo. Chano has been picked a few times, but it's been relatively hit or miss. As we see a Hano ban come out from VP. I don't think I've seen a Hano ban yet.
Yeah, that's I looked at that portrait, I was like, who is that? That's not on my bingo sheet at all. But you said Hano? I gotta mark that up real quick, just to keep my data table rolling and accounted for. It's been a struggle to try and keep that up to date while we're live on the broadcast. We'll definitely have to correct all the numbers after our show today. But God and Mo, another ban for Virtus Pro. We've seen that one before a few times, at least in the mid lane. And Yixing, another control mage taken off the board. No World is my board either. Wow, a lot of mid lane focus here in this final round of bans.
While I was joking about them handshaking about not picking any of the tier 0 priority picks, it might be true as no long ban, no Agron ban comes out. We still have we still have a lot of strong picks coming out. Let me take a look at the spreadsheet here. Here we go. Byron is still up. Princess Frost, there you go. There's the Princess Frost locked in. All these strong picks are still on the table. This first game is usually the first match is when all the strongest picks come out because the teams want to get the good characters on the board and get the momentum swinging in their favor. But game 2 might actually be where all the strong picks come out.
There's a beast.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a viable strategy. If you're able to make or find victory in the first game, not relying on the power picks, then it puts even more strain on the enemy team to ban those away from you and not be able to limit you on, you know, another strategy that you actually want to go for. Otherwise, if things like the Auburn, like the Long, go available, then you're really put into a pinch where you're like, oh, I mean, well, what can we ban? What can we actually take away from these guys because they didn't go for any of the power picks in the first round? And Virtus Pro rounding out their composition with the Mayin has been kind of the answer we have seen into the Dharma. Whether it's been successful or not has been totally dependent on the pilot and the execution of the pick overall. But Yumu's getting a look at these final 2 compositions from both sides. You know, what are the power spikes for both of these teams? Where are their strengths and win conditions going to lie?
I would consider these both relatively balanced teams with power curves all throughout the game. Lady Sun probably spiking a little bit earlier than the Channel, but Channel's not too different from them. What is interesting to note is both these compositions are fairly skirmishy, so we should see a fairly bloody game from both of them. A lot of kills going on either side, and as we mentioned prior, they're seated relatively close as well too. So this should be a nice action-packed brawl here.
Oh, well, I love me some action-packed brawl on the Gorge. That is it's what we're all here for. You know, we just want to see hands being thrown every way possible. You know, the macro play, definitely excellent when we get to see it executed at a high level. But you know what? If people are just, you know, slugging and just trying to beat each other down, I'm all for it, baby. As looks like we're getting some word from, not sure what if there's going to be a pause going into the first game, but it definitely seems like the players and the teams are not ready to load in. So while we are waiting before we load onto the boards for our first game of the 3rd series here, I want to get an overall sentiment from you about how the tournament has gone so far. What are your impressions of, you know, the teams that have competed? We are halfway through, actually more than halfway through our 3rd day of the Major West League, and overall halfway through the ranking week. What is the first thing that stands out to you?
What stands out is we're still really early in the competition, so we see teams starting to adapt throughout the tournament. We've seen Agron really focused on day 1, and teams are slowly trying to figure out ways on how to deal with it. So just the rankings week, we see teams adapting. So the competition is definitely going to close up and get a lot less one-sided, I think, in the survival week. Once these teams start to get a good feeling for where they're at, who they're against, they have a lot of intel to go ahead and do research on, like what characters are actually winning more, what characters do certain teams play. It seems like the first week everyone's still kind of just testing their footing, dipping their toes in the water here, picking what they want, seeing what the enemy teams can do. So I can only see the competition heat up from here.
Yeah, I think as teams are getting more comfortable and figuring out answers to some of the power picks, as you've mentioned before, that's where a lot of the hero pool creativity is starting to reveal itself more. Things like, as you already mentioned, Nextruya being one of the few teams that pulled out the Hanshin. I don't remember if it necessarily won them the game, but just being able to see different answers, you know, being flexed. This is a very, this game and the pool that it has, it's quite a huge depth. And, you know, the fact that even though someone like myself who's relatively new, been trying to do my due diligence and catching up on a lot of the major picks, every now and then, you know, we're going to be surprised to see a hero that we're not very familiar with. You know, I'm not sure what the common knowledge level for, you know, our audience is, you know, if they are diehard pro esports fans and know like every single hero in the game, or if they're, you know, like me, who's coming in and watching some of the Honor of Kings esports for relatively the first time, or seeing it all unfold and, you know, getting into the entire world of it and diving into the action. You see heroes like Hano, I think you called it, being banned for the first time. You're just like, oh, who is he? what does he do? You know, and thankfully we don't have to answer that question right now since it was just a ban. But, you know, if that opportunity arises, then it's a learning moment for all like-minded people like that.
Hano is the most frustrating hero in the game. I hope you never get the chance to play against him and know what he does. He is a bruisery like mage that throws spears at you, and the spears cannot miss. And then if you think you kill him, he presses his ultimate, goes back in time, and you didn't even do anything to him.
Oh, I think I have played against him before. Because he splits on a side lane, and then you get close to finishing him off, and then suddenly he just blinks, and he's like somewhere back up. Oh my god, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Hano.
Oh! I lost the first time I was climbing to Diamond. I lost my promo match from like I think it was Plat 1 into Diamond 5 back when I was just first starting like my first month of Honor of Kings. I'm just trying to split on Ho Yi, and I'm like, oh, what does this guy do? I got this. He just disappeared. What is this? And I never saw him again. So he was just kind of like a fever dream. But now I know he's real, and that's terrifying.
He's also able to revive towers. So now every time in a video where I mention taking towers is forever, someone will comment, actually, if they have Hano in the game, it is not forever. So thank you, Hano, for that, because I got to reply to all those comments.
Oh my goodness. Well, just to remind everyone at home, this early season of the Major West League is made possible with the support of EWC, helping bring top-tier competition to fans worldwide.
Our players are also geared up with the Realme 14 5G, built for performance, made for gaming, smooth, cool, reliable, just the way esports demands. Ready to level up. Get yours now and feel the difference.
Right now, we're leveling up on the Gorge here. First game of our third series of the day between Nextruya and Virtus Pro. So far, not much scrapping, not much early action here. Both of the farm laners solo, left to their own devices, trying to see if they can maintain control of the Phoenix camp. That is always a big one for farm laners early on, to just get that extra bit of gold injected into their pockets, and a little bit of an advantage there to see if they can play off of item spikes or experience leads. But so far, nothing to really be concerned about for either side, as it's a lot of fast rotations between mid laners and roamers, just making sure that no early action really breaks out.
And for our listeners at home that listen and watch while they play, every now and then look up to the screen. We have some codes going all throughout the series here to give you guys some more currency in the game to get yourself some more loot boxes.
Yeah. In fact, if you're not watching through the client and you're watching on one of the platforms, you can always open up the client and get some extra rewards just by watching in the client. I think it's at least 1 minute, just a quick, easy pop-up on the screen, and you get to accumulate rewards. That happens every day of the week. Super cool. I love how the esports side of Honor of Kings is integrated neatly into the client. Great thing that other titles should always do, and appreciate that Honor of Kings does it, as we're now 2.5 minutes into this game. Once again, it's been a very calm one so far.
If we are in the client, Rafa, does that mean we're officially canon in Honor of Kings?
Oh, I mean, if we're canon, do we get to choose like which heroes we're canon as?
I guess so. They let you pick a few characters as your signature, right?
All right, well, Yumu's, if you could be a hero in Honor of Kings, who would you be?
Ooh, if I could be one, okay.
Yeah, you
The
gotta
one
be
I would be and the one that's my favorite is not the same. I would probably be maybe Z Long. He's a nice, young, good-looking chap. You know, everyone likes Z Long.
Yeah, I've definitely played against him a couple times. Not a fan of playing against him, but I can see the appeal. Personally, even though I'm not a good Pei player, I just love Pei. Because if I get to turn into a tiger, oh, dude, that is sick. I like just having
He
that
has
kind
that
of like
swagger about him too.
Yeah, I mean, he like the way he struts. Oh, dude, yeah, Pei is definitely a good chat, and just like being, there's something about being able to morph into tiger. Oh, that's just such a cool ability. But once again, it has been nearly 4 minutes. Tyrant and Overlord spawning in the next few seconds here. Still no really strong skirmishes coming out from either side. It's been a relatively slow game, but maybe the first fight will emerge here as Demon is trying to fight for some vision control in the river, gets dumped on, loses about more than 50% of his HP, and Virtus Pro trying to leash the Tyrant.
This is the most passive game we've seen yet, and it's in large part probably due to the roam picks here. Usually when you see these melee, bruisery roam picks, they don't really provide too much action until they get their ultimates, especially Zhang Fei here, which is very ultimate side here. He usually only joins fights with his ultimate. They have Smite as well too, so they're just going around cleaning up some jungle monsters. Probably the most passive and chill game we had today.
Yeah. I think just goes to show that Virtus Pro and Nextruya are in the camp of we do not want to mess up and give an advantage over to the other side at as many times as possible. But clean play so far from Virtus Pro, being able to secure the first Tyrant of the game, and when Nextruya committed for the red buff on the top side, they slammed multiple members on the bot side, being able to take the first tier turret of the game.
Extremely early Blood Rage coming out for Lim here, being able to have that active on at 5 minutes now. He probably gets 1 or 2 uses before any enemies get to use their actives here, and Saker gets chopped up by the Jing.
Yeah, Grizzly Q just walking a little too far forward in that choke point, and Nextruya do not waste a moment to be able to pick off this support. Grizzly Q didn't even have a chance to flash just because the CC chain was so long.
While they are up a kill, Gold is, even if not, gonna go over to VP side here, as they've done a little bit better objective control and taking 2 towers now here on the side of VP.
Yeah, the funny thing is that even though Nextruya found the first kill, it's overall been a stronger objective control game from the side of Virtus Pro. Now, to Nextruya's credit, they were able to find the bottom tier 1 turret. Big pick right onto Grizzly Q once again. Man, he has been the sacrificial lamb for Virtus Pro so far. And a limb on the Agudo as at least able to create a lot of space in their own jungle, chunking out a ticks on the Jing, forcing them away, but at least is able to still walk away, taking a KO.
Atix is just so mobile there, jumping in and out of the fight, constantly resetting tower aggro and barely escaping with a sliver here. For characters like Agudo, there's not much you can really do about that. You can't really chase them down. You just got to accept the fact that they're going to beat you in the mobility camp, and likely we're going to see VP try to play around their team more and hold their ground instead of chase and hunt for kills.
Yeah, Lim getting some info on that bottom line rush there, but NRX were waiting on the top line rush, which Grizzly Q finds, and Agudo sends in the giant panda to chase after Ryuga. That panda, not going to get that far though, is recalled back over to a Lim, but Virtus Pro, even though they don't find any kills, they're just making use of pressure whenever they can. Oh! Man, Grizzly Q is definitely not having the greatest and funnest time on the Gorge so far. Seems like everyone on NRX is out to get him.
NRX just finds these windows where he's rotating and just catches him off, and Saker, not being able to respond to it immediately, gets chopped up, not getting that time to fly away into the bush, as Jing just deletes him instantly.
Yeah. NRX doing a good job of being able to note when Grizzly Q's flash was off cooldown, was still the case there. Now they're forcing down the Overlord that takes the cures in, and now they fly over on the other side of the wall, trying to force some pressure back into the jungle. But now, might have gone a little too far. Demon able to leap back over that Overlord wall. Gets the escape
This
out.
has to
Rest
be an
of Virtus
extremely
Pro.
frustrating game here for VP, as every time they're so close to taking out a member of NRX, they just escape with a sliver of health there. Right there, it looked like Demon was caught, and then he gets his skill 2 up and jumps to the wall and escapes once again.
Ooh, Six was lying in wait, looks for the trap, but not the rest of his team was really available to collapse right away. Virtus Pro have the numbers advantage, immediately destroy a Tix, and take out the tier 1 turret on the top side of the map.
Just like that, NRX's lead is completely wiped here. That must have been satisfying, finally swatting the bug that was a Tix in VP's jungle, and they're catching up, using that momentum to go ahead and get a kill and take some jungle. I really like how VP ended up playing this. Not only did they just get a kill, they convert that kill into a tower, into some jungle, and if NRX has been doing that the whole game, they would be up a lot more gold now.
Yeah, if there had not been nearly as many picks that NRX have been able to find, then VP would have a bigger gold lead at this point. The fact that it's just the strength of their objective control that has allowed them to shore up that gold deficit and at least go even for now is what is making it competitive. Now VP still have the tools available. I got a little scared for Grizzly Q. We saw how many times NRX has been able to pick him off this game, but at least this time he has the safety of his mid laner to back him up.
He's probably gonna be a little bit more timid now after a few of those pickoffs here. But as I was mentioning yesterday, gold in this game is not really earned via kills, and we see that here as NRX is 3-1, and they're actually down gold. It's what you do after the kill. You get the kill, use it to transition into the enemy jungle, take their farm, take towers. That's where the money is. If you just get a kill and back off, you're not gonna really get much.
Yeah, kills have to be the segue into the objective gains if you want to actually create those leads, and that is, even though Virtus Pro, only 1 kill to the name, they've been at least able to trade in objective pressure whenever NRX are able to find these picks. Now, on the top side, they are splitting, using a Tix on the Jing, at least able to find the tier 2 turret, get some gold back for themselves, and committing enough members to the bottom side to make sure that they do not lose their own tier 2 tower thanks to Virtus Pro pushing. Meanwhile, another pick, but this time Red is the victim, as they were just trying to rotate back to the mid lane, but not realizing where Void was on the Karma. Is now a full-on dive happening under the mid-tier 1. Void able to find the first one onto Grizzly Q, committing forward and looking for Chano in the back. Prince staying alive, able to find one back on the Demon, but Void on the Truth launcher. The Dharma is just laying down the damage and the pain, being able to gobsmack everyone on Virtus Pro.
NRX is doing a great job of catching VP in their rotations. Every support's nightmare is you walk into a bush and you get hit by a truth launcher into a wall and die immediately. There, Red and Grizzly both get caught out. Everyone on the side of VP getting caught out in the rotation. While it is good to rotate and move around the map, you gotta make sure you do it safely. Check the bushes. Don't face check. If you face check, Dharma will find you.
Yeah. The name of the game, if we could summarize the past 11 minutes so far, you moves. Virtus Pro, it's been a game of objective control, and for Nextria, it's been a game of traps and picks.
An interesting note here is you see Grizzly Q, his equipment choice actually is a shield item that allows him to do a group shield on his team. And one of the support item options is something that goes ahead and gets vision and an AoE. Maybe perhaps if he gotten something like that, he would have been able to avoid all these catches.
Overlord's cured. Rest of VP now trying to make use of this buff that they acquired for themselves. Sending a Shadow Vanguard on the bottom side of the map while they continue the pressure on the top side. Taking out the tier 2 tower. It's still keeping them in the game and competitive. They're only down 1,000 gold, just barely under. And for Virtus Pro, even though it was a big play by NRX being able to catch them on that mid lane rotation. Oh, it happened again, Yumus! They found another pick, another trap sprung, and VP are caught sleeping.
They keep face checking NRX, and it's because they don't have great vision control there. When you go ahead and choose for the more combat stats that those shields give you, it ends up sometimes you go ahead and face check the wrong bush. Whereas Demon with the Zhongfei on the side of NRX is opting to use that equipment to scout and get vision so that his team does not go ahead and meet their demise like Grizzly Q.
Yeah, and it's these traps that are allowing NRX to still stay in the game. We've noted before that when Virtus Pro, if they were not giving up these kills, they would have been ahead. just off of the strength of how many turrets they've been able to take, how many objectives they were able to secure for themselves. But now that NRX are able to actually snowball these picks into more meaningful control of the map, now they find themselves with a massive gold lead of 3,000 in 12 minutes.
Yeah, this is not looking good for VP as NRX slowly goes in and pushes into their base. I will have to make a note, the channel is at a really big spike here. Shadow, Ripper, Eternity Blade, and Daybreaker. Every marksman's dream 3-item core. He's extremely strong right now, and probably stronger than Knight on the Lady Sun if he does not get assassinated.
VP have to be so much more careful when making these rotations, and this time they get the trap on the Void. Big shutdown going over to Virtus Pro. Remember, strength and numbers for them, and because of the map pressure from the Vanguards, not all of NRX could have been there to bail Void out.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you there. Void tries to do the same play and catch out Grizzly Q here, but he was surrounded by his team this time. He was ready for it, and Void ends up being the one that goes down.
Continuing the siege in the mid lane, the tier 2
has destroyed a
shall
tower.
fall. Virtus Pro continuing the pressure, not letting the early gold deficit cause them any harm to their morale. Maintaining the pressure, maybe a little far overextended here. They're trying to escape. Oh, what a great truth mantra by Void! Jumps into the backline and slams them into the open arms of NRX, and now they're going to continue the chase. Shisu able to at least equalize some of the kills back, but now is forced to retreat.
It was actually Demon's amazing ultimate there, actually breaking the formation of VP. They weren't sure to go left or to go right, and he ends up hitting 2 or 3 of them there, which juggled them long enough for Void to get in position and hit that beautiful truth mantra.
That was, if I had to describe a word for it, Yumas, it was sexy. Sexy.
That was
nice stuff.
juicy.
Yeah, juicy, tasty. Oh, if this is what you were talking about, Jing just flying all over in that circle with the ultimate. That is bonkers. Dude, some of these hero ultimates are just so wild, but it's so cool to watch. Meanwhile, right on the top side, Shisu tried to tangle with Void's Dharma and did not win that one.
This is such a back and forth game. 1 second NRX is ahead, 1 second VP is ahead. They're pushing their base. Tempo is very important in this game. And gold aside, if you can get the tempo advantage and go ahead and push into enemy base, VP actually almost ended up getting the bottom high ground tower for NRX. They were a bit conservative. I saw Prince on the channel with a skill 1 auto almost take down the tower to half, but they were very conservative about it. They didn't want to overextend, and maybe they should have gave it a little bit more gas, because having that lane spawning elite minions would alleviate all these minions going into their own bot lane.
Yeah, at least Virtus Pro can just focus all their efforts on the top side of the map, which is where the objective control really needs to be in terms of focus, since now we're in the later stages of the game where securing these overlords really do matter so much more in creating those windows of taking out high ground turrets and just constantly putting your opponent on the back foot. But because they lost the high ground turret in the mid lane, they're always going to have someone needing to be on wave clear duty to catch these waves. And if we've learned anything about Next Ruya, that is where they can spring the traps. They wait for members to be isolated, and they just immediately pounce.
They're doing a great job of setting up these ambushes here as we're getting late in the game. 16 minutes. We see Sanctuary here on Addix here, so that means he's full build.
Red, unfortunately, could not escape the ambush fast enough. Next Ruya creating that numbers advantage so easily. Now 5-4. VP backs against the wall as they have to deal with the super in the mid lane. High ground tower gonna easily go down on the bot side, and this is where everything is just going to collapse for Virtus Pro. This is where they're really going to have to stand tall and see if they can withstand, but their endurance is running out, their time is running out. NRX, through 16 minutes of back and forth gameplay, will take the first match.
NRX in that game did such a great job of picking off the supportive characters on the side of VP there. The Saker going down a bunch of times in the rotation, the Yuan. So every time there was a fight that broke out, they didn't have to sustain that utility to help them out, because the supports were the first ones dying.
All those picks eventually were able to create that window for NRX to stay in the game and continue to find that snowball. Even though early on, it didn't seem like it was mattering that much, and it was okay for Virtus Pro to drop a kill here, drop a kill there. It was only on their support, so it's not like any of their major carries are getting delayed in their snowballs and their gold acceleration, but you're still giving gold, you're still giving tempo over to Nextrulia to be able to stall the game long enough for their own spikes to come in. And I mean, if there's one person that I'm looking at who really made a big advantage of it, it was Void on the Dharma. Just being able to find those picks and traps and collapses, and a lot of those CC setups were so punishing on the side of Virtus Pro.
He was very patient, stayed in all the bushes, and it just goes to show that patience pays, as lots of supports ran into his shop there, gave him truth mantras into the wall. I would like to see VP play a little bit of a stronger vision game into this next game here, prioritize these items that give them that vision so stuff like that does not happen. There's no reason for so many people to be getting caught in these roams here.
Yeah, and I think Virtus Pro are going to take that lesson heavy-handed going into the second game, because for the most part, Virtus Pro were extremely competitive. For Nextrulia, they were still maintaining a majority of the objective control. They got the first 2 Overlords for themselves. They got the first Tyrant for themselves. They were getting more of the turrets on the Gorge. So there's no reason that Virtus Pro should take away from this game thinking, guys, we're cooked. They should even be more pumped up and saying, like, this is where we're, falling behind. This is where we can optimize and, improve our gameplay if we're just a little bit more careful about, where these picks could be happening, and using maybe skills or finding ways to safely check these bushes for these traps. We can avoid the deficit and the ways that NRX were able to stay in the game.
Yeah, Grizzly Q, one of the most impactful supports usually, but now this game, it seems like they spend a lot of focus on, maybe a little bit tilted as they caught him multiple times here. Couldn't really do much on the Saker, unfortunately going down 6 times here. NRX's first few kills didn't really amount to much. I was making a note of in the games, as kills are not worth that much, and VP taking 1 kill actually ended up getting a lead on NRX, but after that, NRX started getting more of these kills deeper into VP's base. The death timers were getting longer and longer, and therefore was able to convert into towers and jungle.
Yeah, because you could see for the first, 10 or so minutes of the game, it was still fairly competitive. The gold lead was slightly swinging up, slightly swinging down on both sides of the map before eventually, it takes one super huge late game pick that really swings the game wide open. And if you're just not careful at that point, then I don't know what to expect, other than you're going to get insanely punished. And Nextrulia just being very precise and being very what's the word I want to use, the opposite of hesitant, just not wasting a moment in making those picks happen, and they're rewarded for it.
For sure, yeah. VP giving up some of these random deaths early game. It's all right, you're on cooldown for 6 seconds, but if you get picked off at 15-minute mark, you're gonna go ahead and be out for 40 seconds of the game.
Yeah, and we highlighted it a little bit. We had our feelings of who was gonna pick up MVP, and we were correct. Void on the Dharma, just making such great usage of his ultimate and his timings and his windows on the map, and really creating those opportunities for NRX to not only stay in the game, but eventually win the game.
I know Dharma is a monk, but he felt like a ninja that game, hiding in all the bushes, waiting for the supports on the side of VP to walk up to him. He did get caught 1 time, though, at the end, and he's like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna stop doing that now. I got away with it 7 times in a row. You know what, maybe I should have went for the 8th time, where VP went ahead and collapsed on him and 5v1 him there. But after that, he returned back to classic Dharma gaming here, and started team fighting with his team.
Yeah, and because he was setting up so many traps, specifically in, places in the jungle and the brushes, there's so much terrain, there's so much walls that you get so much value of being able to spring the truth mantra and slamming opponents into, creating more seconds of CC, so that you have less time to actually get out and escape, and just being really cognizant of where everyone was. That was the best play of the game. Oh my goodness.
That was amazing.
I geek out every time I see that, man. You know what? For the rest of the replay montage, I know we're going to see other highlights, but if somehow our production team for the end of the day could just replay that specific fight like 5 times, my day would be made.
Absolutely perfect synergy there with the Zhongfei ultimate landing onto 3, juggling them in the air, giving time for Void to go ahead and catch up and land those truth monsters, shooting them all the way into the jungle wall there, and just instantly erasing the side of VP.
Yeah, well, VP, they had their match made for them, but we still are confident that they have the ability to at least match up to Next Ruya's gameplay and their style. We're going to see how the series continues to unfold. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it'll be game 2 of the series.
Kings, it's an honor showtime. Kings, it's an honor showtime.
Strangers to the fallout, it's what got us here. Ever changing some.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for game number 2 of our 3rd series of the day between Next Ruya and Virtus Pro. Now, the first game, the way it evolved out, it was honestly our most competitive game of the day so far, and one that we expected to be a little bit more back and forth in our prior 2 series and our last series of the day, Yumus, and it was really cool. I just have to say, it was really cool to see how different the play styles were and what the executions and the win conditions for both Next Ruya's comp and the side of Virtus Pro's composition, because Virtus Pro playing a stronger objective game, and RX so decisive, so precise with their picks and their traps. It kept them competitive and eventually gave them the win.
Probably the best picks we've seen all tournament. It felt like NRX played that composition really well. All these picks, they got multiple picks in a row. I was mentioning earlier, he got like 8 picks in a row against VP here. VP definitely gonna have to step up their vision game, not let that happen anymore. But thanks to the global pick ban format, they're not able to get the Dharma again. So I doubt they will go for the same style of lineup now.
Can you transfer the execution, the play style of what we saw from Nextruya onto another lineup of heroes? I would not be able to answer that question. Maybe we'll get a chance to see it pulled out. Oh, look at that. The coach is hyping up Nextruya right now. It's like, hey guys, come on.
Firing them up.
We're one up on the series. Let's just get another solid. I'll help you get another solid draft here, and then let's just get another solid game plan, and we'll just call it an early 2-0 dub here.
Yeah, 1-0, send them home here. A little bit of back and forth between the coaches and the staff. It looks like maybe a little bit more time is going to be taken here. There's the Realme 14 here being used by one of the players here. Wow, those are some big cameras.
Those are some big cameras. Those are some nice phones, too. You think we could maybe swing like a request to get some of those Realme phones ourselves, too? Because then
I feel like casters should get a few, you know what I'm saying, just so that we know what we're shouting out, right?
Yeah, we can shout out the specific specs and give, you know, testimonials and be like, oh yeah, like the cool thing about Realme is that the graphics driver is so darn good that I can play Honor of Kings on like full resolution, full high specs, 120 FPS. You know, just saying. I know production is listening, you know, and we probably won't get a chance to use those phones, but you know, if you know, I'm putting my two fingers together. I'm throwing out the pleading face emoji. You know, it's like, hey, you know, it would be nice. Be nice. We totally live it up for you. But heading into the draft for Game 2 of the series between Virtus Pro and NRX, already some typical bans here. On the red side, the Dharma being thrown out. And I think it's the Mayim that was banned by Virtus Pro.
Yes, it is.
All right. Keeping my hero knowledge up to date. Guan Yu, I recognize that face. Sometimes when the colors go away, it can be hard to discern, but no one's got Guan Yu's majestic, you know, head dress and beard combo, or what is that called? It's not a helmet. It looks like a helmet, but is it a turban? I'm not sure.
It might be a helmet.
Okay, well, okay, it's a sick helmet and a sick beard, and that's what makes me think of Guan Yu, especially when it's the green colors. Anyway, NRX finishing off their ban phase with the Diadea, as now we head into Virtus Pro's first hero selection. A lot of, as you called out before, you Moose, in the first game, not a lot of power picks were actually taken off the board in terms of draft between the two teams. So things like the Augur, things like, I think the Arlie actually made it through the draft phase for once.
I think it did too, yeah.
Common.
But let's see if the teams break the handshake to go ahead and pick. And yeah, handshake is broken as Arlie gets locked in here on the side of VP. I have to imagine it's locked in. It is locked in here. I just want to make a note of the Dharma ban for NRX. They just gave VP a master class on how to Dharma, and they don't want them to use that information as they go ahead and ban it out as their first ban. And we forgot about Mai. The handshakes are off. They're like, okay, you guys pick Arlie. Okay, fine. We'll get the Mai now. All right, deal's off. No more pan punches.
Yep. Chano locked in for Void. Gonna see what he can do on the Wolf Rider here. And the power picks continue to roll on in. We have to wait and see if that was confirmed for a limb, but more than likely, at this rate, an Ogren paired with a strong control mage like the Yixing, and now the very mobile and very slippery farm laner for Prince in the Arlie. That is the core for this Virtus Pro composition.
The deal is so off as we see all these tier 0 picks go ahead and getting locked in here from the side of VP. Is it too little, too late? We don't know. They're down 0-1, but they could easily use these picks to transition into victory.
Luna secured for NRX. That will be Atix's jungler of choice. Second round of bans. Here we go. Wanting NRX looking at some support heroes to take off the board. Liang, the first one of the trade. Virtus Pro also recognizing that NRX don't have any supports of their own, so they're going to take away the Liang Po. A couple more bans available for both teams.
NRX potentially being afraid of the Liang after the lesson that OG taught him with it yesterday. So they're removing that. We don't see many other teams play the Liang, but just in case they're taking it out, they don't want anyone to be able to lock down their Luna and Mai. All these melee assassin style characters really hate being shut down by the Liang's no play button, I like to call it, in that ultimate.
Yeah, and a good call out from NRX. No Dahlia for the side of VP. I think if I was NRX, I would hate to see double Autumn Storm, double World is my board, double Conductor of Souls. Those are all very powerful ultimates that Virtus Pro could easily double up on. Motsu, the last hero banned by Virtus Pro, and NRX have actually yet to lock in a Clash laner, and a familiar face is going to show up here in the draft. We haven't seen this guy in a while since he has been seemingly locked in almost every chance possible in a majority of situations for blind, but Byron getting picked up here for Knight.
Now, we were mentioning that Void might not do the same similar catch style play, but Byron's one of those characters that can actually do that. If he sets up in a bush with his passive charged up and hits you with a full combo, it is very similar to a Truth Mantra into the wall. So I'm excited to see if he can get any similar plays going this game, or will VP shore up that weakness there and go ahead and not get caught so often?
Wait a minute. I am just realizing now that Void is playing farm lane. He was just playing Clash lane in the first game. What?
A beautiful sleep is
Void? What? I think the
'Cause
graphics might be wrong, but I think Void is on Clash lane for NRX.
Okay. All right. Just making sure I'm not, seeing deja vu or anything or something. We'll find out when we get into the game, I guess, but we at least saw the Void in. Oh my goodness. Okay, a lot of exciting heroes here, Yumus. I already know. Spill me the knowledge. Show me what's up.
Oh, it is Knight on Byron here. Okay, that's confusing me now too here. But they pick up, I cannot say his name, but I like to call him Whale Guy there. One of my favorite supports, actually. Zhuangzi. Yeah, a pocket pick of mine here. He has the amazing ultimate to be able to give his entire team a shield and cleanse all their CC. So as we see in last game, the Zhongfei being able to stun up 3 people, that's not going to be very possible if my friend Whale Guy here is at the helm.
We're just going to call him Whale Guy for the rest of the cats here on the game. You know what? I respect it. Yuma's gang, is Yuma's correct in just calling him Whale Guy? Press 1 if you agree, press 2 if you don't agree.
I think he would be okay with it, because that's one of the most chill characters. His personality is so chill. He's just riding around on a whale, supporting his team. That's the first time we've seen it too. I don't think that character has much presence, but it is a amazing counter picks in the right setup, and I think this is a pretty solid time being able to cleanse the CC from the Zhongfei ultimate, even the push from Arlie here, and the boat from Sun Tzu. Not going to be able to get them out of the board, but maybe empowering teammates to have enough durability to survive and fight through it.
Look at that. Void is confirmed in the farm lane this time around. Man, I don't even remember who was in the farm lane for NRX in the first game. Like, I don't know if it was Knight or if they had one of their subs. I'm looking. Like, technically on their roster sheet, their sub Bobnet is listed, but as a roamer. So are NRX just flexing roles just like that? They're nice with it just like that? I guess so.
Rafa, one of my biggest nightmares has occurred. He is not on the skin where it is a whale, and he's on like a flying mountain. So he might now be the mountain guy.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Yumus. I know how excited you were to see Whale Guy, surfing on the gorge, but instead he is gonna be a mountain, trying to move mountains here as NRX getting super aggressive in the bottom side map, whereas it looks like Ryuga was chunked out heavily, manages to survive.
Ooh, nice pull in there.
Pressure here from Grizzly Q, pushing them back on the Zhongfei. A Tix super low, trying to take this last camp, but Grizzly Q is going to still force him out. Looks like a Tix was able to secure it with the smite, but now Virtus Pro taking this opportunity, knowing that a Tix is too low to contest his own jungle, will look to counter jungle some of these camps away.
It seems like Grizzly Q has got his mental refreshed and ready. This is more of the Grizzly Q I know, one of the most aggressive support players, going into the enemy jungle, fighting them for their farm. This time, going to heal. So as you see, different Zhongfei players prefer different stuff. Here, Grizzly Q opting to take the heal for a bit more utility in a fight, being able to heal up their allies, whereas some choose to go to smite for the objective control and early game invades.
Phoenix camp secured. Meanwhile, oh, we were in the day phase for a quick few seconds there. Everyone was moving super fast, and Grizzly Q was ready to throw down some hands on the Zhong Fei. Not level 4 yet, so no access to the monkey form with the Unbridled Assault. NRX still keeping their cool, still keeping their composure. We didn't get a chance to talk about power spikes and where the compositions feel really strong. I know from previous games, Mai being an assassin that would prefer to scale against some items under her belt or looking for them. Is it kind of the same story for the rest of NRX?
So NRX, actually, no. Byron is one of the strongest early game picks. You might consider him a lane bully here. He basically falls off late game and churns into nothing but a tank, but we see Sunsi with an amazing set sail here, and a limb gets taken out, actually, unfortunately. But I was going to the point earlier, yeah.
Yeah, Virtus Pro getting a little too aggressive in the jungle. Punished by NRX there. They continue to make the rotations across the map. A minute away before Tyrant and Overlord spawn.
All right, if we have some breathing room here, I'll continue what I was mentioning earlier. Byron, one of the best lane bullies, kind of falls off a bit here. So maybe leveraging the power of Byron early game to give Mai some time to scale up and get some items. Luna, also one of those characters that once it has a few items in it, gets kind of crazy. Chano, pretty standard power curve there. Nothing too outrageous there. And Demon usually is a supportive character helping out, round out these fights at any point in the game.
Now is the time.
Well, if NRX are able to at least leverage the power of Knight's early laning phase to give them first collapse on any of the fights and skirmishes topside, that's where a lot of those advantages are going to come from. And just buying time for the rest of the composition to come to the line as Mountain Gun, a demon, making his way through the river. There was a little bit of a skirmish in that bottom side jungle. Ryuga just getting out before things got a little too hectic there. Tyrant World is my board. Construes the movement of a lot of members here, and the lens secures in on the Ogren, but a Tix continuing the chase. Finds Red, looking for more. A Tix going crazy on the Luna, but still gets executed thanks to the Seer State passive on a Limb's Ogren. Now they have to give up space and control on the bottom side quadrant, at least being able to trade 1 kill for 1 kill and securing the Tyrant.
You can really feel Atix's bloodthirsty nature there, diving in 1v3, unfortunately going down, but he wanted to keep going, getting more there as we see VP side getting lower and lower. Gold-wise, pretty even this game here, as NRX seemed to have a pretty similar early game to VP where they controlled the map and got more objectives.
And yeah, as you called it out, Knight, because he has that first priority on the Byron, using the early game strength. He's rotating with the rest of the map, leveraging that map pressure to at least create these turret objective advantages, where the first turret of the game knocked down on the bottom side, and that pressure is now giving them the window to go for the first Overlord of the game. As you called out, it's not the most impactful one, not the ones you get when it's upgraded to Shadow Form and you get that empowered Vanguard in one lane of your choosing. And now NRX, 3 men dedicated to the top side, Tix taking up mid lane, whereas 2 men Virtus Pro on the bottom side of the map.
Now, Mai has been picked a few times to kind of shy success, but this is one of those games where I see Mai being able to come in and build up some items while their team goes in and carries them early game. And later on, you're going to see the true power of Mai once he gets all those items and gets these flashy combos off on the enemy team, hopefully.
Ryuga. Will he live up to the Mai Shurnoi potential of this hero?
Red team
Demon getting slightly deterred in the roams on the top side, but creates enough space. Power of the Overlord Vanguards plus the pressure in the mid lane successfully destroys the first tier 1 turret in the mid lane. And NRX, once again, they're back to their ways, looking for traps.
For sure. Look at Knight just prowling in that bush here. I'm really impressed with how NRX has played so far here. Some people would say VP is probably the favorite, but it does not look like it when you watch the gameplay.
Yeah, Next Ruya has definitely been impressive in the way that they are patient and lying in the shadows. How they can deceive Virtus Pro and see if they can look for these quick picks. Red forced to flash away as Atix was looking for the kill. Forces him away from the safety of the mid lane.
I think once Red goes ahead and gets some anti-heal, we should see some good team fights inside of VP. A lot of the members on NRX, actually, their core builds have a lot of lifesteal in them. So the lifesteal on the side of Addix and Ryuga on top of the heal from Demon, once we get the anti-heal spread late game from Red, they should be able to win some team fights. But until then, it's going to be relatively hard to fight these highly mobile bruiser, assassin type characters in the early game.
Lead still ahead for next Roya, although it is small, 2,000 gold. Still playable for the side of Virtus Pro as they are just clinging on to whatever resources they can safely accrue for themselves. Remember, a lot of scaling power on the side of Ogren, the Harley, and the Yixing. But Virtus Pro,
NRX,
as we learned from the first game, Yumus, they have to be careful about how safely they are taking these resources, because NRX are just loving the way that they can set up these traps in the jungle.
Yeah, while NRX is up 2,000 gold, I would rather say what's more important is they're up 4 towers. Being able to open up the map, get good vision, and able to extend that gold lead even more now. As you see, they easily go ahead and safely take VP's jungle with all this vision. Luna just absolutely dancing around the fight there, resetting all her abilities. One of the most mechanical characters there.
Luna was fun. I might have to try this one out too. I love playing jungle heroes. Meanwhile, a Tix getting a jump onto a limb, keeping distance and space here. World is my board, keeps him locked in, and looks like a Tix went a little too far. And when Virtus Pro are able to fight as 5, they are strong and able to withstand the pressure that NRX tried to put on them. Demon, no, Mountain Guy falls too. A disaster for Yumu's fan base as Virtus Pro able to find themselves a couple kills and a way to stall out the game.
NRX really trying to brute force that fight, not in vain of how they've been playing recently, where they've been looking for catches and ambushes in the jungle. It kind of felt like they tried to brute force it. They walked into the jungle, took them out in a flat-out fight within Red's board, and that did not end up going favorably for them.
Yeah, and now Knight, even though we know how strong the Byron can be early on, starting to feel the pressure where he can't necessarily lane against multiple people in his lane. He's just doing what he can to concede objectives gracefully, not give up any random deaths that were happening in the first game from Virtus Pro's side. For NRX's sake, they're still ahead in gold with VP. If they find another successful fight where they're able to fight on their terms, in their ways, where they're executing front to back, like this composition is built to, then it could be disaster for NRX. But as we say that, potential skirmish on the top side, a limb was in danger. They're able to make it away alongside Shisu, but that opens up the Tyrant being secured by a Tix and Knight on the bottom side, whereas NRX continue to hold their ground on the top river.
Interesting itemization here coming out from the Sunset here with a Frigid Charge. I don't know if that's my first option if I know the enemy team has Demon, able to cleanse any CC available here and itemizing into an item that only CCs.
Oh, Prince, forward. I know the Parasol game can be slippery, but still NRX have enough damage to back it up, and Shisu gets a little too far forward as well. Sunsei falling. That's one of the frontline members gone, and look how deep Knight is into the base. He doesn't care. He's creating space for the rest of NRX to just brute force their way through the high ground turret, take another 4 members, and it's just over. Just like that, NRX sweep the series against Virtus Pro.
Wow, just to convert one pick into a full-out fight there, as you can see, is amazing. They actually clean up the game from that. I was not expecting it to go down that quickly. Using the ultimate there to shield everyone up, getting 2 rotations of it, making sure that they all 5-man death ball. I would consider that more of a death ball composition near the end there, where they push that tower down and winning that fight.
It is just baffling how fast that game ended. It seemed like Virtus Pro had a stronger foothold in the game, that they had some ways to stall it out even further, especially off of the advantageous 5-on-5 they found in their bot side jungle. But then the skirmish goes horribly wrong for them. They're not able to actually withstand all of the burst damage that occurred from the side of NRX. And then it seems like it was a case of one by one, people overestimating how far they can stay in the fight, and then it just goes from, you know, what could have been, oh, okay, we lost one member, we can all back off, and then suddenly the sunken cost fallacy is like, well, I'm already in this fight, you know, I'm trying to buy time for everyone else to get out, but then, you know, everyone seems like they have the same mentality, they just cannot escape. And NRX, they say, well, this is our window, guys, it's time to finish the game. And yeah, that's the sweep.
It was looking really good for VP actually when they gone ahead and caught him in their jungle when NRX overextended and lost a few members. But then it seems like it was a fluke as NRX did the same play again, but this time wiped them and got into their base.
Yeah, just stunned. I'm stun locked, Yumus.
That was an abrupt end. It went from probably a high ground tower to VP overstaying and accidentally committing more of these members. As you mentioned, the sunk cost fallacy. They try to save each other, and when everyone tries to save each other and no one ends up getting saved, you lose all your members and sue your base.
Yeah, that's always it's always an oopsie when it happens. And, you know, for the fans of Virtus Pro watching, definitely a bummer. Well, for the side of NRX, coming out huge against the representatives of Kazakhstan and for Turkey, they're definitely eating good tonight, being able to see their representing team do such a fantastic job in both of these games. And, you know, like we said, we still felt like this was the most competitive series we have seen of the day. But the fact that NRX are able to just find these windows and completely dismantle the lead or any means of, you know, Virtus Pro having a window back into the game, just, it gives me a lot of hope in seeing what Next Roya can do to see if they can actually make a push for that third seed. Granted, I think it's going to be tricky because they already played against, if I'm not mistaken, 9Z Globant, and they lost the series 1-2. So obviously having the head-to-head score on the opponent that you feel like you would be the most competitive with for that third seed that allows you to go straight into the upper group puts you at a deficit. But who knows, you know, if 9Z Globant somehow drop a series against another team, it could be big for the side of Next Roya, and all you can do as Next Roya is just continue to put up the numbers whenever you can against the rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah, as we mentioned prior, these more middling teams, when they go against each other, the wins really matter because they're not really fighting for first place anymore. OG kind of has that lockdown with Twisted Minds, right? But you want to go ahead and sneak in and steal that third spot. So all these wins really matter for tiebreakers and such. Even if you lose, being able to get a win will help you out in the tiebreaker here. As we see Void with the MVP on channel. Yeah, they did they switch roles? Because I remember he was on, so he's just like stealing MVPs no matter what role he plays. He's getting MVPs.
Crazy.
30% damage dealt.
First game he says, yeah, give me the Dharma, you know, I'll make the picks, you know, I'll make the plays happen. And then second game he goes back to at least what it says on our sheet here, his original scheduled role in farm lane, and says, yeah, it's time for me to beast mode on the channel. And you know what, I respect it. I was not familiar with the game, Void, but now I am, and I will be familiar with it for the rest of the tournament as we take a look at all the highlights from the second game.
Void just going for side quests at this point, trying to get MVP on all roles while playing in the West League here. I love to see it. Here's the fight that VP gone ahead and looked like they were turning the game back here as they catch Addicts going too deep. This looked really good for the side of VP here, closing back up that gold lead. But somehow, when the same fight happened again, they ended up getting wiped.
Yeah, it all started with the pick on the Prince here, and it seemed like at that point, VP were just trying to find ways to get back in. You saw that Shisu was at least looking for a trade on the Demon, but then right here, they're trying to protect this high ground turf from going down and just overestimating how much they could actually endure in the safety of their own base. At that point in the game, it's no longer the safe haven you might think it is, especially when you're down numbers like that. And unfortunately for Virtus Pro, they got punked by the side of Next Roya, but you know, props to them for being able to close the game out in an unexpected fashion.
I think the problem there was they ended up going ahead and fighting without their ultimate. Zhongfei didn't have his ultimate, Red didn't have his board to trap the enemies to either aggress or disengage. But all right, that's the time for now. We're gonna have to go ahead and go to break as we get into our last series.
In this world, only ones in this call out my name, cut through the sound of the rain. No matter how I feed the flame, you know I feel the darkness and the pain. All of the ways we tried to break free from the night, you know we made it out, we found the light. I fly so high, light up the skyline. Let's do it this time, like it's a whole new vibrant world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world.
Now I see that I got everything I need. It's alright, I'm on fire, I'm alive, 'cause now I fly so high, light up the skyline. Let's do it this time, like it's a whole new colorful world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Never thought we'd get this far, burning like the stars. How we get this far, like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world.
What's a life without its words? Compromising with what hurts inside, When you let fear decide your fate, you don't choose which path to take alive. In life, I'm finally letting go of everything that still holds me. I'm against all odds, but I won't give up, 'cause it's my time to shine. Standing in the spotlight, and no one let me down. Destiny is calling high and light. I'm not afraid to fight.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for our final series of the day between Mobistar Koi and OG. And before y'all tune on and go, oh man, this is going to be a slaughter, you know what? You're probably right. You know, I'm sorry for any of the MKoi fans that their boys are not looking too hot right now. They have lost 4 series so far. They got 1 game dub overall in game score against Virtus Pro, but still, Mobistar Koi at this point, they no longer have a chance to get into the S group that will escape Survival Week. They are more than likely at this point, I think, guaranteed to have to play through Survival Week next week. So playing against some of the big tournament favorites like OG, this is just a chance to get as much experience as you can and try to, you know, see what it's like to play against, you know, really strong macro teams. Because it's not just the mechanics that OG are beast mode at. They're just so good at making rotations and understanding where to pressure at the map at all points in the game.
While I'm sure their mechanics are great from OG's side, it's that overwhelming macro that they hit you with. You just can't breathe, it feels like, when you're playing games. They're everywhere at the same time. You don't even know how they could even get there. No bias, this is the strongest team versus the weakest team ranking and statistic-wise. So like Rafa mentioned, we're probably going to see a stomp, but it's a matter of, let's see how well they fare compared to some of the other teams OG has stomped, because so far OG has stomped every single team.
Yeah, and for OG, more so the pressure is on them to continue performing to expectations. You know, it's not just enough for OG Esports to win the series. If we want to continue, you know, praising their play, they have to, you know, they have to destroy MKoi. They have to completely leave them with nothing. No turrets taken, no kills. If they manage something like that, that's when me and Yumus just go, damn, OG are the truth, you know? But if MKoi are at least able to challenge them a little bit, we'll still say, yeah, OG are still, you know, the better team, but at least MKoi, you know, were able to at least get through the games without being completely rolled over, you know? So, and for MKoi, the odds are stacked against them. This is a true David versus Goliath matchup. And, you know, we might set that up and not trying to bait you guys and thinking, oh, maybe there's a chance, you know? If MKoi take a single game and they still lose the series, that's something worth celebrating for the side of MKoi, because then you will be the only team responsible for handing a loss to our top dogs in the Major West League right now.
That would be a monumentous victory. As you mentioned, OG has a reputation to uphold. Every set, every series they play, they seem to do something even better. They extend the gold leads, they end the game even faster. So if OG cannot perform a record-breaking performance here, they're actually upsetting the status quo here. So I think they now need to win these 2 games in under 16 minutes now to beat their prior records or something like that in 16 minutes. Let's see how they can do.
Yeah, it's crazy with the reputation to uphold common, because now it gives me like OG or like Mafia boss vibes, where, you know, they can't just let these series, you know, kind of go willy-nilly, you know, just because they're ahead and more than likely securing their spot in the S group. They want to maintain that status as the best team in the league. They want to maintain that status as, you know, the undefeated team, the only team to not drop a single game, let alone a series. And if they can maintain that reputation, it goes further into just leveraging that credibility and that reputation for the rest of the tournament. And it just gives us higher stakes to look at when we get into not just playoffs, but also more than likely OG being the favorites to represent the Major West League at the International later this year.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how MKoi goes ahead and drafts this. During the break, I did think about some things they could potentially do in the drafts. Not many teams actually went ahead and targeted the more comfort or pocket picks on the side of OG. I think it would be a good strategy to maybe ban away the Pei, ban away the Guan Yu, make OG play these OP meta picks, and then you take some as well too. Maybe go ahead and give them first pick. They take 1, you pick 2. And while they are probably seasoned on these meta picks as well too, they're probably not as comfortable as it is like Dao on the Pei, which feels like muscle memory to him at this point.
So what you're saying is, instead of banning the OP picks, you ban the pocket picks, and then you just, you know, hope for the trade that the power picks are going to be something that they're not as practiced on. All right. feel like I'm
Yeah,
following.
leave all the cards on the board. You know, that might be a good strategy to help him out. Like I said, Dao's muscle memory is to be up like 5,000 gold at 5 minutes. So you do not want him to get into that zone there. And give him the Argon. He's good on it too. We've seen him win on it, but he seems to be not as dominant. He doesn't choke you out as early in the game as he is in those pocket picks here. And maybe that'll give you enough time to mount your strategy, scale up, and take a good win over OG that no one has done yet.
Chat, press 1 if you agree with Yumu's coach analysis here. Press 2 if you think he's capping. And just let us know. Let us know. You know, I think Yumu's game will maybe support you, or they might just, you know, press 2 to spite you. You know, I don't know how your fan base is, if they like to clown on you or if they are loyal supporters and they always, you know, ride or die for you.
They do a little bit of both, but it's always questionable to allow Dao on something like an Agron. All right, I'm not fully advising that. I'm saying maybe, guys, we trade some powerful picks. We leave everything on the board. We remove these pocket picks like the Pei and the Guan Yu, which realistically we're not going to be doing anyway. We're not going to be playing anyway. But let's go ahead and go over into these teams here.
Yep. Starting with the blue side, check out the teams. On the blue side for our series today, it is Movistar Koi, and they're still going with the recent Roll Swamp roster that they started fielding as of day 2, with Muaji going from mid lane to the flash lane, Kentao coming from off the bench into the mid lane starter role, and then Goose going from the flash lane into the support role. And as we said before, Yumus, there are some good things about Movistar Koi. These are a lot of players who are new to the esports scene. This is their first time competing in a major esports league in general, and they have all achieved relatively high ranks on the ladder. In fact, I think you said Muaji is rank 1 in the server so far, and they have the mechanics and they have the team fight intuition to play out these 5-man fights super well. Comes down to the map play, but of course their opponents on the red side take a chance to meet them. It's OG Esports.
Here we have Team OG Esports, Dream OG, Boogeyman of the West League here, with Wei in the mid lane, Dao in the jungle, and on the farm lane, Muchin on support, and Keke in the clash lane here. Amazing team. We talk about them a lot, we hang on them a lot, but for good reason. They have not lost yet. Former roster for Team Vitality here, participating in the S3 Invitationals here. And I'm looking at some of these notes here. Apparently, the audience also nicknamed them the Italian Mafia for all of the hard time they hit from Nongshim during the lower bracket. So you were right earlier about the Mafia vibes about them.
You know, that was just like a for funny off the top, but I didn't realize that was already something kind of well known. But you know what? That fits. That's I like the vibe, and they are definitely the mob bosses of the league so far. They are the top dogs, the kings, undefeated in series score so far in this league, and they're going to continue more than likely that run as they extended their lead series score to 4-0 after their series against 9Z Globin earlier today. We're into the draft phase for game 1. As you called out, Yumus, your coach strategy is let them have the power picks, ban away the niche picks, the pocket picks, and you know what? So far,
there we go. It's coming
they're
out.
going down your philosophy. They're banning away the pay.
Yeah, leave all the strong picks on the board, but remove those picks that you probably cannot pilot to the same level as OG, right? We probably cannot take away the pay and do a similar performance to Dao. So let's go ahead and remove it. No one gets to play.
We will not see the Tiger of the West emerge on the Gorge in this first game of the series. Dharma banned by OG Esports away from Muaji. Jing, another assassin pick taken out of the hands of Dao. And the bans will round out with a Liang ban from M.
Mai and Arlie is up. Which one will MKoi go ahead and go for? I actually prefer the Arlie. I think Mai will require a little bit too much finesse for MKoi here to go ahead and pull off against an opponent like OG. So I really like the pick they end up doing here with the Arlie. Will OG take the Mai though? Of course.
A trade of the power picks, so everybody is going to eat from that elite class of heroes. Idea also secured here from Muchen. And now OG still have a chance to lock in their jungler of choice on the next round before we go into the final rounds of bans. But MKoi taking their choice of a solid tank jungler for Demon Cat in the Dune at least provides a front line and some durability and some CC. The Dahlia also locked in for Goose.
I am Ogron, the Seer.
Yeah, that is a bit dangerous taking the Dune Dolia combo. I've noticed that MKoi really values the Dolia and Dune combo. We see him pick it a lot. We see him really prioritize banning and picking the Dolia here. But the problem is they're going to be able to give away the aggro in there now. And OG has 2 bans on them to remove some of these picks that could threaten the aggro too.
Yeah, this was a similar combo that MKoi used against their opponents earlier today in Twisted Minds, where they let Clean have the Ogren, and they tried to just use the CC combo from Dune to lock him down as much as possible. And to their credit, in some of those early 5v5s in those skirmishes, MKoi did look pretty strong, pretty competent. It just came down to the snowball of the later game and the map play as we finish out the second round of bans. Chano and Lady Soon taken away from the hands of An, whereas both Mayin and I believe that's Elaine, a Clash hero for Guan.
Rafa, I'm looking at these drafts here, and unfortunately it's looking like another ultimate battle draft here for OG, as they have Mai, Diadea, Argrid, and now D Renji here. I think MKoi maybe has over-prioritized the Dolia Dune combo. I don't think it needs to be picked so early to the point where they would have to give up the Argrid here and Diadea, which is an amazing combo.
D-Renja is going to give on a little bit of early priority in this lane, and always some, not necessarily reliable CC, but can at least look for some initiations with that ultimate in the Imperial Order. Ooh, MKoi thinking about their mid laner and Clash laner of choice. Princess Frost, great control mage that can at least create space and give some extra farm over to any of the other carries on MKoi if you want to be low on econ. And Charlotte is the line pick of choice for Muaji, but that just opens up Guan Yu for Kiki. Oh boy, Yumus, we've already seen this guy do some unspeakable things on the Guan Yu earlier today throughout the tournament, and MKoi, they're about to get a first-hand experience at how terrorizing this Guan Yu can be.
Yeah, Kiki's Guan Yu. I have a feeling they're going to put a lot of resources into that lane. Every team that's played against OG seems to try to get Kiki behind on the Guan Yu, but it never ends up working out. He stays under his tower, walks around, waits until the mid game, and somehow always finds a way into your back line.
Yeah, it's just such a terrifying pick to have to go up against. As we see the compositions finally lined up and arranged. You've already, voiced your concerns about some of the drafts decisions that were made by MKoi in some of the trades, but they did follow the philosophy of trading power picks here. It is the Ogren, something that Dao cannot be as aggressive on. He's still able to find those windows where he can go for the early invades, and if MKoi are not tracking it, he is still able to find that acceleration of extra gold through counter jungling. But where do you see MKoi trying to find those spikes, those strengths in the win conditions here?
While I do not like Dolia being prioritized so early on in the sense that it would kind of hamper your draft, I do think Dolia is an amazing pick that opens up a lot of characters that makes them better. Dune Dolia, a very traditional combo. Actually, Dolia and Princess Frost too, getting 2 of those blizzards down is going to be really nice to slow down all those melees on the side of OG. If you look at their composition, they have 4 melees if you count Argrin, which is kind of like in the middle. So being able to sit down 2 blizzards, having all of them have to walk through that. D Renji is not historically a high range character too. He's usually mid range. So Princess Frost and their play here with Dolia is going to be very important to the outcome of this game.
Yeah, solid adaptation from MKOI and being able to at least take advantage of a relatively short-range composition from the side of OG Esports. We'll see how well they can execute, because when you're going against OG Esports, you might as well just throw out typical matchups and win conditions out the window. And it just seems like MKOI already feeling the brunt of the pressure. A little bit of an early trap from OG Esports, chunking out Goose's health bar as we load up onto the Gorge for the first game of the series.
The idea, one of the strongest roamers or supporters here, and you can see it there, is because that impressive early game, level 1 and 2, Didea is probably one of the strongest characters, stronger than most carries, junglers for sure, being able to latch on and CC you there and apply all that pressure, means so you can't even play the game.
And already that pressure granted by Muchen allows Dao to safely walk in level 1, not even needing the first skill, takes the second skill instead, just to help finish off the red buff faster with the power of Smite. And then once he gets that second skill, you saw Demon Cat try to run on over from his top quadrant to contest Dao, but once he's in that seer state, he can just pop the execute, and if you don't have your Smite, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, if you're not on time of stopping Argrin, he will go ahead and take your jungle and get out, and there's not much you can do about it. You really have to be there when it happens or stop him from coming into your jungle for you to be able to deny it, because if he's already on it, there's a good chance he can get out too.
On Muchen maintaining the pressure 2v1 against KMW in the bottom side, whereas they've actually shifted Arlie and Dahlia into the mid lane to at least force that early wave in. Now they're going to look for a fast collapse, see if they can make it possible. No level 4s, no ultimates available for the side of MKOI here, whereas level 4 is available for On. Throws out the Imperial Order, stuns up KMW. Here comes a collapse from Goose, but is it enough? I don't think so. MKOI are really trying their luck here, but they just get finger checked here with the mechanics. OG Esports coming out with first blood.
Luli taking the parasol back, almost outplayed Wen there, but it was just not enough as he gets the skill 1, barely enough damage to take him out there. We might see one of these games where the Mai gets a lot of kills this game here as Wen dives under tower and takes out KMW.
Wen gives his life just to make sure that they can continue putting the pressure down onto MKOI as, oh, nice secure by Dao, able to still execute it. I think, couldn't tell if it was the seer state or the Smite coming down to get the red buff and stolen away from Demon Cat, but while the rest of OG is creating pressure, Dao is just farming up safely, getting all that gold into his pocket, and then finding these windows to counter jungle once again. And unfortunately for MKOI, because they have to deal with the pressure on the bot lane, the pressure on the top lane, Demon Cat on this dude is not going to be able to fend off the Ogren by himself. He's got a lot of CC, but he needs the damage for the rest of his team to make those opportunities happen.
Charlotte could be in trouble here, but Mugen goes in 1v2. Charlotte, one of his signature picks. We've seen a lot of highlights out of him to Charlotte, even though they have not gotten any wins on it. He's had impressive scores all throughout those games, winning 1v1s, 1v2s even here. So I'm interested to see how he piles to Charlotte against the Guan Yu.
Gonna try to do his best here. This was the blind pick of choice for Muwaji, trying to really rely on a little bit of a surprise pick, something that we haven't seen that much. Meanwhile, Muchen was in trouble. Rest of MKOI trying to put the pressure down. Massive knockup, barely sidestepped by the rest of OG Esports, just a little short from Demon Cat. I imagine if that knockup had landed, could have been a great opportunity for MKOI to get some kills back over on their side of the map. Meanwhile, because Demon Cat went to the bot side, Dao continuing his shenanigans of just yoinking camps away on the Ogren.
An interesting adaptation here I'd like to talk about is KMW actually goes for the penetration boots. We've seen a lot of Princess Frost's mid go for the boots of deafness to roam around the map, but KMW valuing that damage of the penetration boots to help out maybe the Dune, you know, as a little bit tankier, can set up KMW, and he doesn't need as much mobility, he finds.
Yeah, you can just sense the
Tyrant
pressure
has
that
been
MKOI
defeated.
feels. They need that extra bit of burst. They need the extra bit of damage to finish off some of these more durable members from the side of OG, since it is becoming very close in a lot of these skirmishes here.
Red
As
team
MKOI,
has
thanks to the
destroyed a
pressure that they
tower.
have continuously leveraged on the bottom side of the map. That's the first turret of the game going down in favor of OG.
And while it's hard to notice, 5 minutes has elapsed and OG has built a 2,000 to about a 2,000 gold lead with not much kills. It shows how good they're at controlling the map and getting the farm.
Slain an enemy.
And it looks like Nextria are not the only team familiar with setting up traps. OG, Spring one
Red team
on the bottom
has
lane of
destroyed a tower.
MKOI. And then just completely snowball it into another tower being successfully taken off the board. Gold lead extended to 4,000.
Wow, just like in a snap of like a finger here, OG goes and gets 2,000 gold. I was just about to say that they've gotten this gold lead without getting much kills, and then now they get a bunch of kills.
And they're continuing to leverage the pressure even further. Now that they have full, unlimited access into this bottom jungle through the bottom side of the map, whenever the waves are pushed in, it's just not safe for MKOI to check this quadrant at all. And OG are just pretty much dancing around MKOI's battle lines. The only place that they can reliably stay under for safety is this mid lane tier 1, but that is the next objective of focus here for OG.
Dao has gone ahead and elapsed the early game weakness that is the Argrin here. Keke still has towers in his lane. I would like to see OG try and take out some of those towers and open up the map so we can see Keke roam around. He's kind of stuck top lane fighting the Charlotte, which is not the most useful thing for Guan Yu. But now you see towers going down, they're grouping up, and now this unlocks Keke's roaming abilities to go through the map and provide some pressure on the Guan Yu.
Ask and you shall receive. Yumu's OG do exactly that. Tier 1 opened up in the clash lane. Movistar Koi trying to overload 4 members in the mid lane so they can at least fight for some pressure and some space. Still at least a minute before this Tyrant comes back online. Overlord has not been taken by either team yet, and OG are just continuously relentless. As they found a pick onto Goose, and he's got no room left to go. Kentao forced to flash away as well. Unfortunately, for the sake of his comrade, was not able to save his support.
MKOI here, one of the things we mentioned in the prior set is they tend to over-rotate and defend objectives here. As you mentioned, there's 3 people mid. They're overloading mid for that mid tower, and since there's so many people there, it easily lets OG go ahead and take that clash lane tower.
Here's the power of Kiki's Guan Yu already using the ultimate to catch out Luli on the Arlie. Yeah, that can be a slippery hero, but if you've got no room to go and the Parasols are still limited in range, then OG Esports, super easy for them to collapse and pounce. MKOI is continuously losing pressure and areas of space minute after minute as we're heading into the 8th minute of the game. And you know, the only leadership that's in the mid lane, and OG are just driving it relentlessly without a drop one on the Wen. But now they're continuing the pressure under the tower. The execute from Dao in the seer state finishes off Demon Cat. MKOI now down to 3 members while OG still rocking with 4.
This is just brutal. OG just diving them behind their towers now here. When getting a little bit too deep, a little bit overzealous. We've noticed that this game on Demai, he prefers to just open up the team fights and start it. Even if that means him going down, he knows he sets up his team for victory there as Dao cleans up with the Argrin.
Yeah. You called it 2 minutes ago. Dao has elapsed that window where the Argrin is not as strong. Yeah, we're well beyond that point. Dao is now very oppressive on the Argrin, super tanky, and yet can still pack in the executes when he is in that seer state, which is what makes him so damn strong. He's 3,000 gold individually up on Demon Cat.
Yeah, this is really rough. The economy on the side of MKOI is not good. They're also building these utility items on all their characters too. So Princess Frost, while she has the penetration boots, she's forced to build anti-heal first item. That's not going to be enough firepower to cut down all these high base stat, high level bruisers on the side of OG.
And Yumu's, they did it. They pulled it off. They did both of the neutral objectives at the same time. Dao was soloing the Shadow Overlord while the rest of his squad was able to take care of the Shadow Tyrant. And now they have the opportunity to send the Shadow Vanguard wherever they want to. The rest of OG trying to hold on. Actually, I think I lied. It wasn't even Shadow because it's just so early on into the game. And here comes the flank on all sides. Kiki right on in with the cavalry with Guan Yu, as we've seen it time and time again. Luli is able to at least equalize by one on the win, but he will gladly give his life over for the cause of OG Esports as they push easily into the base. One last Hail Mary as a defense. A last stand from the side of MKOI, and to their credit, they actually do hold the lines here for now. Both of their high ground turrets were lost, but they are still alive.
MKOI is still alive here. As I mentioned prior, they are tenacious. They are amazing at holding their base. Let's see if they can go ahead and convert this team fight win where they take a 4-for-1 into some objectives here. Maybe even the Overlord so that they can get a bit of breathing room here with that summon. Does not look like they end up going for it. They rather go for the Tyrant and some more team fighting power here. They need to quickly get what they need to get and get out of dodge as OG's getting back on the map now.
Yeah, Kentao creates space, finds a pick on a win. Wait a minute, MKOI. That's a good pick. It gives them a little bit more tempo, a little bit more breathing room. And even though they don't go for the Overlords, it does add on to, you know, it's on brand, I want to say, for MKOI to go for something that accentuates their natural strengths as a team, which is the team fighting intuition that they do have. Obviously, they've been down a lot of gold in a lot of these fights, and so they're always going to be unfavorable, but the fact that they've been able to hold off this long is still somewhat admirable. But now OG Esports, once again, full control of the map, and they're going to be ripping the Shadow Overlord.
The problem with taking a Tyrant there is you give over the Overlord to OG, and this Overlord is likely to seal the game once it is sent out here. Wen also getting caught out multiple times. We've seen playing a little bit too aggressive on the Mai here. I think that was his 4th death here for Wen, but they're using a lot of resources on him, and Dao and Keke and the others are definitely not letting him go down for free.
Yeah. OG curious to see where they're going to send the Shadow Vanguard here. Vanguards are now pouring in. Oh, massive knockup from Demon Cat. Wait a minute. They pick off Wen and they pick off On. Wu-Chen falls as well. MKOI, they're holding strong. They're evening up the gold deficit. It's still 4,000 for themselves, but they're doing everything they can to stall this game out long enough. And now Dao, who is pushing all by himself on the top side, he's got no friends. He's got no backup. He's holding off, and it's a powerful on-grip, but when you are facing against the full man of Frontal Soul of MKOI, they are going to be able to take you down.
MKOI very impressively winning 2 back-to-back fights. They're gonna need 1 or 2 more of these, and they should be out of the base here. They need to use this time very wisely that they have now while OG's off the map to push out these waves and alleviate some pressure so that they're not stuck in their base. But it's gonna be difficult as they have 2 high ground towers down. Can they start to slowly get back some of the map and some of the towers of OG here while they have breathing room?
What once was an 8,000 gold lead for the side of OG Esports has now been shored up to 3,000. It is still in the lead of OG. They still have the advantage of 2 high ground towers taken off the gorge. But MKOI are now making it more favorable to take these fights, to take these even number fights, but they still have to be cautious about how much attention they leave on this bottom side where Kiki could easily just go for a backdoor.
Rafa, is this the closest game we've seen from the #1 ranking team and the lowest standing team currently? A 13-minute game with OG. It has never been done before until now.
Yeah,
the minions in the base. The minions in the base.
Okay, I mean, Muaji is dedicated to holding the line at the crystal, just making sure that they don't lose to a minion base race. But OG, I'm hesitant to say whether it's MKOI, you know, catching them by surprise, or if OG are playing a little too complacent against their opponents. Maybe going into this series, we know that they are 4-0 in series score. MKOI are 0-4 in series score. We expected OG to dominantly take this game, and for the first 8 minutes, it seemed like it was just going to be, you know, a wash. OG were ready to roll down, but ever since that one base defense, MKOI have been finding windows to shore up the deficit to find their way back in this game.
OG when on the Mai has been playing a little bit reckless, I might have to say. He's opening up these fights for his team, but they're not always succeeding, and sometimes he goes down before anything even happens, and that's giving MKOI.
Losing Ken Cow, and that could be the backbreaker for the side of MKOI. They trade it back onto Kiki's Guan Yu. Mwachi's going crazy into the backline. Finds Muchen, gets traded out by Dao Dao, and now on the Ogren when he's got damage in his backline. Maybe he can sustain through. Demon Cat and Lu are not going to be long in this world, and it looked so good for MKOI. There was a ray of hope, but that ray of hope has been dashed away and snuffed out by the darkness. OG Esports continue to show why they're the best team as they're going to look to push it in for the first game victory.
That fight looks so good for MKOI. They've been winning the last few fights. I thought they were going to win it again and break out of their base. Keke was dropped so low, but then the Ardrin here getting all these executes, quadra kill at the end. There's so many threats on the side of OG. You can't kill one of them. They're like a Hydra. You got to cut off all the heads.
And OG Esports, even after what was Game 1 victory, I think you can tell that OG a little relieved and thinking to themselves, all right, guys, we might have gotten a little too loose there. We might have given them a little too many advantages back. And as we talked about going into the series, we already expected OG to be the favorites and MKOI with their current series record to, really having to scale the mountain in terms of expectations in order to look competitive. And I think, we don't know obviously for sure, but just looking at it from the sidelines, I think there's a chance that, there was some complacency. OG were probably thinking this was going to be a free win, and then once MKOI started turning up the heat, that's when they had to kind of lock things down and, and be a little more precise about the fights that they were taking.
I've been saying it all day about MKOI. They're tenacious, man. All right, they have not gotten a win yet, but every single time they lose, it looks promising. They don't get stomped somehow. They do not get stomped, even against OG, where stronger teams, higher standing teams, they get absolutely stomped. 9-10 minute games, 8-minute game even from OG. They held up for 13 minutes, and it looks really close. At the end, you couldn't really tell who was going to win that fight. And if MKOI won it, it was going to be their third team wipe in a row against OG. I do think you are correct with the complacency there when getting a little bit over aggressive here, diving into the fights, kind of playing it for fun a little bit here, but a 3-5-10 KD as you can see here on the Mai. But at the end of the day, it was Dao Dao and the Argon that cleaned everything up as they expended all those resources on Wen, on Keke. He was the contingency clan in the back, getting that quadra kill, shutting everyone down.
Yeah, and for MKOI's sake, we talked about how if they were even able to get one game victory in a series despite it being a loss, that's worth celebrating if you are MKOI, because it gives you confidence that you can actually make a miracle run in the survival week after this weekend is over, and looking forward into week 2. But even then, this wasn't a game win, but there's a moment where MKOI just showed, like, we're not a team that you can just roll over and, for fun it after you get your advantage. You still have to respect us to a certain degree. And once again, it's the decisiveness that they chose to initiate with those team fights. Were they on, members that were overextended? Perhaps. But MKOI didn't let those opportunities, go for free. And they tried to maximize it as much as possible. But in the end, it is still a lead that OG had that was too large to surmount, even with all of the comebacks that MKOI were trying to make.
Yeah, we see MKOI go ahead and catch up there on the graph a few times, almost getting out of the hole near the end here before they ended up going back in here. Luli actually having the most gold in the game, 13,000 gold, more than everyone on the winning side of the team, OG here. And I also want to shout out Mooch in there, 94% kill participation here, helping out in every kill except one, and a lot of kills went down on the side of OG, really enabling his team to get all those kills, making sure he showed up to every single fight with the idea, showing why that pick is so priority in the support and roam position.
Yeah. Well, it was a battle to the end for both teams, but in the end, MVP is actually going to go to On the D Renji, who, if we remember in the early game, a lot of the advantages that were created for OG was thanks to this pick in the bot lane, creating a lot of advantages and volatility that the rest of his team was able to capitalize on, because Dao Dao his game as the Ogren is, I just want to farm. I just want to steal some camps. I got to scale on up. I don't really want to be involved in these early fights. So if you guys can create all the pressure for me, that would be great. And On is able to do it tenfold alongside the rest of his team.
The Renji's traditionally a utility pick, but On is able to turn it into a damage cannon here, doing a lot of damage on it, and they pick it in the draft to, you know, dissuade the enemy team from going these tanky characters like Dune, because they want the impact from Keke and Mai to be able to shut down these squishy characters. So being able to turn a more utility counter pick into a fully fledged carry is amazing.
Yeah. As you can see, once Dao Dao is able to join these fights comfortably and has enough items in his back pocket, then yeah, he can take over the rest of the game. And all that advantage is created. Although, you know, in some of the highlights you see the moments where MKOI, they saw that brief window where they could have won another fight that would have been their third back-to-back victorious wipe. And had that been the case, Shadow Overlord was coming up again, Shadow Tyrant was available. You still had to deal with the pressure of not having two high ground towers, but that helps you equalize that map pressure. And I think MKOI going into the second game, we're not sure what the strategy is going to be like. We're not sure what the talks are going to be between the players and the coach, but I imagine there should be some confidence saying like, hey, like we didn't get completely rolled by this OG roster. And if we're able to find windows where we can prioritize a little bit more map pressure, we don't experience this same deficit where, you know, the two high ground turrets are gone and you're fighting up against the mountain to try and come back into the game. But of course, we're going to find out how that unfolds right after this break when we get ready for game 2 of the series.
You've walked through the darkest nights. You've heard the crowd, felt the blinding light. You were standing there when your heart comes alive. It's a dream of a hat, and it never dies. Right here, right now, give it all, get it out. Never surrender, I fight and never fail. I am a contender, a challenge I can feel. The smallest lies become the brightest enemies, relentlessly. And even if you fall, you gave it everything to be a king. The smallest lies become the brightest enemies, relentlessly. And even if you fall, you gave it everything to be a king. You carved your way with a sharp attack. You watched it all burn, and you never looked back. There will come a day when your fears will rise. You protect your crown, so it never dies. Never surrender, I fight and never fail. I am a contender, a challenge I can feel. The smallest lies become the brightest enemies, relentlessly. And even if you fall, you gave it everything to be a king. On my way, on my way, find my way, find my way. On my way, on my way, dream my way, dream my way. Never a surrender, I fight and never fail. I'm a contender, and challenge I can feel. The smallest lies become the brightest enemies, relentlessly. And even if you fall, you gave it everything to be a king.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready for game numero dos between Movistar Koi and OG Esports. Off of the first game, you might think if you're just tuning in now and looking at the series score, you're like, yep, OG 1-0 as expected. Well, if you go back and watch the game, you're going to see some surprising things after the 8-minute mark where OG Esports, you know, maybe they're having a little bit of too much fun, but Movistar Koi was finding moments where they buckled down and they went for decisive team fights and picks, and were actually able to shore up a lot of the goal deficit. Unfortunately for them, it was just too big of a goal deficit to scale.
MKoi doing excellently against OG, better than a lot of teams here. Sure, Wen was limit testing a little bit on the Mai there, but this is still not to understate MKoi's impressive team fighting. We've seen in all their games, they are very impressive team fighters. They never really lose a fight too poorly. Even games they lose, the score, they're either higher on kills or just about there, as we've seen in this game. Where they struggle is how they play the map. They're not good at managing these waves, so they're always dealing with waves at their base, and I feel like they don't prioritize the Overlord enough past the 10-minute mark, where there's ample opportunity for them to go ahead and get that Shadow Overlord after one of these team fight wins to maybe clear out a wave and give themselves some breathing room. They're always focused on the fight, which is good because that's their strength. And if they can find a composition that can force these fights a lot, it's nice, but it ends up getting them trapped in base every single game, it feels like.
Yeah, and something that you have said a couple times on our broadcast today in previous series, sure, you can get kills, but kills doesn't get you gold. Kills gives you the opportunity to get objectives, and that's where the real gold is, whether it's stealing camps away after finding a good skirmish, or you get a massive team wipe, and then you're able to snowball that into a lot of turrets being taken off the back of it. But if you've lost your 2 high ground towers and you're trapped in your base having to clear minion waves, then yeah, even after a massive team wipe like that, and if you don't have anything helping you in terms of map pressure, like with something like the Overlord buff later on after the 10-minute mark, yeah, it is so difficult. It is so difficult to reliably, feel like you have a chance to make your way back into the game as, a substitution. So, as we said before, Goose was originally the Clash laner, went to support, while Kentao moved from the bench to the mid lane, and Mwaji went from mid lane to Clash lane. Goose is now out, and they're putting Sin, the starting support, back in the lineup.
MKoi has the most roster swap substitution strats of the league so far, swapping Mwaji into the Clash lane here, Goose into support, and now it looks like bringing their sub back into here. Maybe this could be the shakeup they need, but honestly, I felt last game they did a really good job, better than a lot of teams. They just need to go ahead and build on some of their weaknesses and shore them up, because their strengths are very pronounced.
Yeah. We're into the draft phase for the second game of the series. The way that OG has been successfully closing out these previous matches, it could just be our last game of the broadcast today. But the way that MKoi were able to almost come back in the first game, maybe there's a chance. It's a very slim percentage, mind you, but already we're seeing some hopeful ways that MKoi have been able to at least navigate against what seems to be the best team in the Major West League. Mai, as you called out, Diadia also sniped away, which is Sin's favorite support of choice. The Arlia and the Dharma exchanged by MKoi.
Stealthy sword will shatter
Yeah, Koi always gives us hope, and hopefully they get something on the board here. If they do, it will be so impressive against OG. While it is only 1 win, it is probably going to be the most impressive win here in the day, if not the week now here, as we see long game picked up by the side of OG. They did some intelligent bans here on the side of OG, removing the Mai and Diadia, which they've already used, and if they can't go ahead and use it, they don't want MKoi side to use it either.
Right. Well, the Ogren is being thought about, at least for the side of MKoi, but I'm telling you, if that Ogren is locked in, I know exactly what Dao Dao is going to go for. Yep, he's already hovering it. The Tiger of the West, looking to make its appearance once again on the Gorge, and they're going to pair it up with some even more early power in the side of Byron for Keke in the Clash lane.
That two-piece core there is so devastating. Dao on the Pei and Keke on the Byron, completely being able to control the top side of the map, using all the early game power of those characters to invade and steal the enemy jungle. We have not seen another team in the West League use those picks to this power level before with this much aggression, and using all the power of those characters to go ahead and win 2v2, 2v3 fights we've seen here, whereas MKOI takes a more traditional composition. I have a bad feeling about this game, Rafa, about what's going to happen to MKOI.
Yeah, I mean, MKOI want to bank for the team fighting phase of the game where they can, you know, force those 5-on-5 fights, but you're going to need some early bridges, some agency from some of these lanes so that you're not completely losing pressure on all sides of the map while Demon Cat is trying to scale up on the Ogryn. Very similar into the manner that OG were able to buy time for Dao to scale up on the Ogryn in the first game, but now that he is the aggressor, he's the one on the Pei, and you already have a guaranteed lane to play through on Flash Lane with the Byron, I imagine any top camps in this game, it's not going to be Demon Cats to claim.
Yeah, this is going to be really rough for Ogryn. Let's see if he can go ahead and find some weird invades early game, maybe throw off Pei, you know, and steal some farm from, you know, underneath him. Not really fighting for it. You don't want to fight the Pei for farm, but maybe if he goes into your top side, you can find a way into his bot side and kind of do that sort of trade. OG's definitely not going to make it easy, though, as they are seasoned veterans when it comes to invading and protecting their own jungle. But let's see what MKOI rounds out their draft with here. Maybe the Sunset here locked in. It is locked in, actually, on the side of MKOI.
All right, well, Mwaji's gonna do his best to roll in with that boat, making those fast collapses and rotations possible faster than almost any other hero, unless you're something like Lubong, who can teleport at a moment's notice, or if you have something like the Da Chao, who can whirlpool you in from all sides of the map. MKOI round out their composition with the Shi in the mid lane, Liang picked up for OG Esports Wu Chen support, and Princess Frost for Wen, as you called out before. Some control mage action and at least something that gives OG Esports another lane of farm that you can always reliably feed into something like On, especially if the early game is not as safe for him.
I think this is probably OG's favorite composition there. The Byron, the Pei in the top side of the map, and the Liang Princess Frost to move around and catch people with those double ultimates here. This is their comfort picks, Rafa. I have a really high hopes for MKOI because of these great team fights, but this might be a really hard bout for them here coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that once Along is able to get to the late game stage of the match, you just are able to walk in and just tap people to death with the amount of damage that is pumping out of your auto attacks. And for MKOI, the task and the challenge is at an all-time high. You have to buy time for your jungler and Demon Cat to scale up on the Ogryn. You have to find windows to leverage some pressure in this bottom side where I'm not sure how much of an early game pick Lady Sun is, but something tells me you definitely have a little bit more agency than something like Long in the first few minutes of the game.
For sure, Lady Sun is one of those characters that could itemize to spike really early as one item if she opts to go for the Axe of Torment. Obviously, that would make you fall off a little bit more as later on when people build up armor, that's not going to be as useful. But maybe that's what MKOI needs to get himself a little bit of breathing room here to stop the onslaught that is OG on their signature comp, on probably their favorite characters here, because we've seen him succeed with so well. And I just want to see how it goes down here.
This could be the last game of the broadcast today, or it could be the making of one of the most incredible stories to hit the Gorge here in the Kings Major West League. It is game 2 between OG Esports and MKOI. Both teams take to the Gorge. And right now, you're already seeing Dao setting up for an aggressive position in that lime brush. You get a jump on the Demon Cat, but because he is collapsing with multiple members from his side, he's at least safe enough. They're going to actually play for a mid-wave push and more than likely go for a bottom lane invade.
Here we go. That is the trade I'm talking about, Demon Cat. If he can just go ahead and not fight the pay for the farm and go, you know, trade away some of his camps, maybe that's a good way for them to maneuver around the early game and get around the pay, as pay is forced to come back to his red side here and secure his camps before he gets taken away.
Good snipe by Sin on the secure. Able to yoink one of the camps away. Meanwhile, Luli on the Lady Sun, trying to contest for this Phoenix at the moment, but now it's a 2v1 as Muchen comes on over in the nick of time to ensure that On is able to secure another camp for himself. Meanwhile, back on the top side, Demon Cat has already cleared his blue buff, but feeling the pressure of potential invades from Dao Dao, forced to take his top side camps just to make sure that he can secure them before Dao Dao finds a window. And for the most part, at least in the first 2 minutes of the game, MKOI have done a decent job of being able to hold back any invades possible by Dao Dao.
You saw the respect MKOI went ahead and gave to pay invade. The Shet was basically following around Agron in the jungle here to the point where he's not even level 4 yet, just to ensure that he would not be caught out without them helping out.
Now just thinking level 4 for Demon Cat, but Dao Dao is so ahead of experience just because he hasn't had to share any of those resources. He's been able to get a lot of that for himself. Pressuring the top side alongside Keke, making sure that Muaji is not able to get the winning side of this matchup and leveraging the pressure that Keke has on Byron. But still, so far, if MKOI are able to continue a game like this where it is just evenly traded, they're slightly ahead in terms of gold. This is so far a winning state as the boat misses by Muaji. Keke sidesteps it, and the flashes come out from both Clash laners. That was close.
That was an intense 1v1 that easily could have went either way on both sides. But I like this strategy that MKOI is developing, giving Demon Cat his personal bodyguard in Ken Tower, following him throughout the jungle, making sure he's never caught out in a 1v1 against the Pei, which is exactly what the Pei wants. Sure, he is down in experience, but the gold lead here is actually on MKOI's side at 3 minutes. I don't think we've ever seen this before.
Yeah, but here's a trap. Liang, Muchen with the ultimate, stuns up Sin, immediate numbers advantage. They trade one back onto Web, but here comes Dao Dao, and there's the takedown and the execute in the Tiger form as Dao Dao ensures why MKOI have to respect his pay.
There we go. This might be the inch Dao Dao needs to go ahead and maneuver into MKOI's jungle. As members of MKOI's side have fallen here, they're not able to protect it as well as when they're all up. And this is the start. This seems to be the start here for OG.
Now, the gold lead is still fairly small for the side of OG Esports. It is winning. This is how it seems to always start new moves. We always see OG Esports, even some of the most competitive games where some of the teams decided to take some early agency and try to fight fire with OG in the first few minutes of the game. It seems even, and then suddenly OG will find that window. MKOI doing at least a decent job of stalling out for now, still maintaining gold for the side of Demon Cat's Ogryn. They're all grouping up for this first Tyrant of the game, and it doesn't seem like there's a response from OG.
While very surprised to see OG give this over, if they give this over here, as the Tyrant is looking like he's going to go over to the side of MKOI here. MKOI has a pretty solid early game. We see the ship come out from the sunset here. Doesn't really do much, as it seems like they didn't end up needing him. He was probably ready to ride down if OG responded, but as you mentioned, they end up giving it away there.
MKOI just ready to commit the collapse if OG were wanting to take a fight there. Just doing everything they can to play through Demon Cat to make sure that this Ogryn is getting online. Dao Dao looking for another invade on the bot side, knowing that he has On and Muchen in his back pockets. Yoinks the camp away. Demon Cat continuing to farm up a storm on the top side now. And OG are still very limited in some of the windows that they're finding here against MKOI. You know, there was some early scrapping on that bottom side fight, but as you called out, it's still a very small deficit.
MKOI might have found the secret sauce here to deal with the pay early game here, as this is, if he's not ahead, like I said, 5,000 gold at 5 minutes, he is behind, and right now he's even along the side of Demon Cat, and Demon Cat with the Ogryn definitely scales a lot better.
Okay, MKOI testing the limits here. Sin getting very close. Oh, still has a flash, but getting pressed by Muchen on the Liang, and the Princess Frost combo right on top. No way to escape it. No chance for a flash as Muaji might be in trouble now too. No flash available, cannot escape. KMW, or Dowdo's Pay, I should say, lays down the pain.
That's traditional in OG fashion. When stuff happens, it happens everywhere at the same time. As we see a 1-for-1, wow, in the bot lane here. Liang versus Luli here on the Lady Sun. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dive attempt and Luli trying to establish some lane pressure and dominance, but because they die under the tower, no chance to at least go for some turret pressure. Meanwhile, on the top side, right after the pick on the Muaji, this is what we're talking about when it comes to map advantages for OG. We take a look back at the replay. Sure, gets the kill, still dies to the tower, not a way to extend the gold lead for themselves, whereas for OG, as soon as they get the pick on the Muaji, Demon Cat cannot stop that turret from falling, and now here comes the snowball Yumus. Tier 1 on the top side, Tier 1 on the bottom side, Overlord taking off the back as well.
Yeah, that was in very MKOI fashion. Some of the matches yesterday I watched, MKOI, they love chasing for kills. And if OG is known for their early game aggression, MKOI is known for chasing down these people when blood is in the waters there. As you see Luli flash from their tower to take out Long.
And without these tier 1s on the side lanes, their only safe spot to step up far on the map is under the mid lane. But yeah, you're starting to feel the pressure now. If you are the side of MKOI, OG can fearlessly start roaming into either of these jungle quadrants, playing through the pressure of these side lanes. Now that the Vanguards are pushing in on both side lanes, OG can just continuously fish for picks, fish for dives. Another stun under the tower to tier 2. Luli's got nowhere else to go. Dowdow finishes them off with ease, and the rest of MKOI can't do a damn thing about it.
This Liang is just able to confirm so many kills with those flash ultimates to lock people down. Makes his team's job super easy. Wen knows to drop ultimate on top of it. If he grabs someone here, Dowdow knows to go ahead and eat him up on the Tiger if they're grabbed, making it impossible to defend if there's only one or maybe even two people defending. Being able to just remove one of them at a moment's notice.
Set sail used by Muaji, trying to see if there was a chance for a quick, fast pick. MKOI trying to continue to stall out the game, but it's no longer the small gold deficit that they were experiencing. It's now a larger one. 3,000 gold ahead, almost 4,000 for the side of OG.
It looks like MKOI once again has control over the Tyrant there, as OG seems to not worry too much about the Tyrant this game here. We see Sek here taking control of the Pixel Bush there, not letting OG in as they go for another Liang ultimate.
The Liang ultimate right on the Demon Cat. Man, Ogren at least is able to survive, but it comes at the cost of Kentao being exterminated. Sin also biting the dust here, and here comes the Tiger of the West! Finds his prey in Demon Cat and shows who's the real king of the jungle.
I'm surprised Demon Cat survived that long after being grabbed by Mooch in there with a Princess Frost ultimate on top. Somewhere along that fight, Wen actually got sniped out and taken out too.
And now all the pressure, all the advantages gained from the skirmishes picked off in that bottom side jungle bleeds into the tier 1 falling in the mid lane. The Tyrant now easily for the taking for the side of OG Esports. And this is how it's done, y'all. If this is your first time watching OG Esports play a composition like this with Dowdow on the signature pay, this is how it always happens.
Yeah, OG took him a little bit longer than usual to find that inch, but they found it, and now it is ending up to be a mile here as they're up 6,000 gold on the side of MKOI.
Muaji looking for a teleport to answer the push on the bottom side of the map, but once again, the power of Princess Frost and Liang working hand in hand to lay down the crowd control and the AoE damage means that no one is safe once the lockdown occurs. Sin bites the dust here. MKOI down to 4 members for the next 20 seconds.
What I love about OG's draft is, while we know they're the favorite team here, and they are, you know, the probably most skilled team in the rankings wise, their team's win condition is relatively simple, right? You get the Liang ultimate off on someone, everyone drops all their abilities on it, you pick Byron and Pei and control the early game. Their win conditions are so simple, and that's why OG consistently reaches them every game.
Yeah, and like you said, what does On the long get to do? He gets to farm the side lanes comfortably. He gets to be safe from all of the action that occurs from OG putting the pressure down onto MKOI. And so if the game ever does go late, if MKOI finds a way back into this game, you got the insurance policy in the case of
Has
Onslaught.
destroyed a tower.
Yeah, you go ahead and contrast that with MKOI style, and they don't really have a clear game plan on what they're supposed to do here. The Sha is very good at moving some people around. The Set Sail maybe needs to sync onto the back line. We have Lady Sun. It feels like they're a little bit more separated and not as in sync, whereas OG side has very defined course. Pei and Byron early game play the top side, Yang and Princess Frost combo ultimates, and we let Long farm up and scale out.
Yeah, when you're able to force these numbers advantage, it's so much easier for heroes like Kay and like Byron to continuously find those 1v1s, because that's where they thrive. It's in the individual skirmishes where the numbers are not that great in terms of... Oh, I might have disconnected. Am I back? Am I back, chat? You losing my back?
I think
Okay.
I was disconnected here as I had to quickly refresh as my feed was a little bit staggered there. As we go back into the game, we see it's 10-4 here. OG is now up 7,000, coming up on the 10,000 gold mark. MKOI, as usual, doing a great job of defending, but let's see how long they could defend for.
Yeah, the Shadow Vanguard has spawned. We're going to see which lane is getting the empowered one. It is the Clash lane, makes sense. A lot of the pressure from OG is focused on the bottom side of the map, or they can easily rotate over to the next Tyrant spawn if it comes up and they haven't breached the base yet. MKOI doing the best that they can to farm up these side waves, but once again, as you pointed out before, you're going to have to find a risk. You're going to have to find a window where you are decisive and spring and engage onto OG when they are split up.
Here we see again, as mentioned before, MKOI usually over defends. He sent 4 people bottom, so the Argrin cannot deal with the Pei in the 1v1 as Argrin just takes the tower, as Pei, I'm sorry, takes the tower right in front of Argrin.
A high ground tower, first one to fall in the Clash lane. And then now deal with immense pressure through that lane, whereas OG Esports now able to focus their efforts solely through the mid lane, through the farm lane. And the siege continues. MKOI running out of time, still trying to buy as much of it as they can and stall for some of these later item spikes to come into them. But at this point, it just seems like you are stalling out the inevitable.
We've seen this all too many times. MKOI churtling in their base, 5-man defending, giving up that map pressure, having no vision of the map. And this is going to enable OG to do some things they've done in the past where they take both objectives at once and they keep hammering the minions into MKOI's base.
With boggling vision from our observers here, just showing how bleak it is for the side of MKOI as they finally pull the trigger, diving into the base. The high ground tower falls, and the rest of OG spring their fangs right into the backs of MKOI, the Tiger of the West, just baring his claws and showing how strong he is. The king of the jungle, the undefeated team continues their reign as MKOI lose 4.
That should be it for MKOI here. Interesting start to that fight there. The Byron was actually caught out by She as she pulled Byron into the tower. And then Keke knows, wait a minute, I want to be here. Flashes behind the wall to engage a fight on them, which ended the game ultimately.
As expected, OG Esports sweep the series. Game 1 might have been a little more competitive from the side of Movistar Koi in that later half of the game. But the second game, it was all business. Yes, there was a little bit of early game defense that was solid for MKOI. They were able to seemingly go blow for blow and able to stall it out, but all it takes is that one window where they find the first early tier 1 turret, and then the rest of the map just slowly collapses one by one.
For sure, MKOI did a great job of holding, as I mentioned, some of these strategies where they bodyguard the Argrin, are actually like moments of genius. Now, if all these teams come together, and I feel like we're noticing small weaknesses in OG that every team slowly finds, you know, if all the teams can compile that together, maybe they can bring down the Demon King that is OG Esports here. We're noticing that's a decent strategy that delayed Dao's early game. He's not used to being even with the enemy jungle. He's not used to having to clear his own jungle. But she did a great job of protecting Argrin here, and that could be some knowledge used for future games.
Yeah, I mean, it's an eventual, slowly building adaptations that teams are making against the likes of George, even some of our top teams like Twisted Minds, who are also showing favor to the likes of in the jungle, going for that early pressure as a means to defeat something like an Ogren who wants to scale through the early game and become that very hard to kill tank in the later stages of the game. Because the other answer is to go for a strong CC and lockdown. And, you know, to OG's credit, even if they didn't have strong CC from the jungle, they had plenty of it from both the support and the mid lane.
Yeah, they really like rounding out their composition with the Liang and Princess Frost. We see them use that combo a lot. I mentioned this a little bit in the game, but OG's compositions, like even though they're one of the strongest teams, they have the simplest compositions. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Byron and the Pei, great early game duo, being able to apply pressure early and invade the enemy jungle. And Princess Frost and Liang comboing ultimates together. They keep it simple, and that's how their gameplay is so consistent, and they consistently win. Whereas if we see MKOI's composition, I don't really know what's the game plan. What is the win condition? Maybe we get a ship onto their back line, and then Sha gets a nice push off. It's too complex, and definitely against a team like OG, when you have a plan of all these moving pieces, it's not going to work out.
At least in terms of the early map play of trying to defend the Ogren was a solid, you know, game plan that they could execute. But at some point, you're going to have to fight. And if you're, you know, the way that the team fights draw out are not as reliable to execute versus the likes of Leon flash ulting you, Princess Frost following up with her full damage rotation, then yeah, something might have to change. But at least we can see the works of, you know, creativity in the minds of MKOI. But for OG Esports, I mean, who else is going to get this MVP? You know, maybe, you know, Muchen, an honorable shout out for just committing his flash always to lock someone down alongside Wen's Princess Frost. But this is the Tiger of the West for a reason. Dao, undefeated on the Pei, making this hero a hero that we just do not see that often anymore compared to a lot of the power picks, looking like one of the best junglers in the game.
Dealing 27% of his team's damage, ending the games early. Usually you don't see junglers doing 27% of their team damage. It's the farm laner or mid laner, but he ends up doing all these numbers on the Pei.
Yeah, it's always such a treat to see stellar Pei gameplay, because when you get to higher levels of international competition, it's so hard for Pei to actually reliably get those feats to feel meaningful, to feel useful in those stages of games where you're trying to force these early skirmishes, the early invades, the time when Pei is at his strongest point, because then usually what happens is you see Pei starting to split on the side lane. And yet Dao is still doing that, but because he's so strong, he knows that no one can 1v1 him in the side lane. They're gonna have to bring two, they have to overload the threat. And then that opens up the rest of the map, and then OG Esports, just in similar fashion, every single series that we've seen them before, have just been able to dominate with ruthless map control.
Pei is one of those characters that's on a timer. You know, he's like a reverse time bomb. As the game goes on, he gets weaker and weaker. That's why OG knows they need to end these games out quick. They draft these compositions to take advantage of the fact that Pei is so strong early, because they know once the game passes, let's say 15 minutes or so, the Pei is not as useful. When you get a fully blown team fight, he doesn't have much AoE. His damage is kind of shoddy, right? But while the game ends early and you're able to split up these fights and get these split pushes going, where he's soloing the Agron here while his team's causing a lot of havoc bottom, the Pei is an extremely strong pick.
That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of all 4 series of the day. It was a relatively quick show. We had 4 back-to-back 2-0s. We even thought our most competitive series between Virtus Pro and Nextruya was going to go the full distance, but Nextruya being able to collect that super quick game 2 finish off the back of back-to-back kills outside of Virtus Pro's base ensured that we're all going home early, and all the teams are going home early too. There are a couple of off-stream games that have been happening while we've been doing our broadcast live. I know that we had I don't know if we got the results of the first series of the day, which was between Alo and Nextruya, but when we get a chance to throw up the group standings for the end of the day, I think we'll get a chance to see what were some of the results from the off-stream series, as well as reminding everyone at home what were the results of the 4 series today.
We'll likely go ahead and update the people on that tomorrow. If not, we could probably try and deduce it from the standings, as you mentioned here. 2-0s all across the board today, all right? Quick games. We're ending probably an hour earlier than yesterday here because OG is here for 2 of the games here. So some really quick matches here. But if you look at just the numbers, you're probably thinking this went according to script here where all the favored teams win. But if you actually watch the games, you see MKOI put up a great fight against OG. They almost had some opportunities to take it here in game 1. Game 2, they had moments of brilliance here too. Some of the jungle defense strategies they're using here. All these games are actually really closer than I think we predicted. We probably predicted correctly in which side is going to win, but we didn't predict it to be as even as it was today.
Yeah, for sure. And now we're getting the rankings for the group stage so far in this first week. OG lead the table with 5 wins in their total series score, undefeated in game score as well. Twisted Minds 3 undefeated games in their series as well. ALO looks like they were, oh my goodness, wait, if I'm reading this right,
I think they won. They won 1, lost 1, I think.
So I have to remind myself, they won the series against Movistar Koi yesterday.
Yeah, they beat MKOI, so they didn't 2-0 off stream here, as in both sets. I think they won 1 set, lost 1 set off stream, if I'm correct.
That sounds like it. We'll have to confirm it and go back through. But you know what? One of the things that we talked about that is still up for grabs is that 3rd spot in the S group. We feel pretty confident that not only OG is pretty much locked in at this point with now 5 series wins, but Twisted Minds, even though they've only played 3 series so far, they feel pretty locked in if they get 1 more series win. Of course, tomorrow it is going to be our match of the week. It is Twisted Minds taking on OG, potentially an early preview of the finals for this Major West League based on how everything is playing out so far. There's always time for one of our dark horses, whether it's 9Z Globin, ALO, or hell, even Next Ruya, who are, starting to show themselves to be able to outclass Virtus Pro to rise up through and, make a run for it in the playoffs. But this is going to be a banger set of matches to close out our first week of Honor Kings Major West League.
That match too is gonna be a match to watch. Italy versus Italy here. Unfortunately, I will not be casting it tomorrow, but I'll be watching alongside all the other fans, waiting to see who goes ahead and takes that one down. Next, Ruya getting the crucial win earlier today, as I mentioned, is very important, as they're only 1 win shy of that 3rd place slot. So it's still anyone's game for 3rd place. 1st and 2nd, we know we're pretty much locked down. The game versus Twisted Minds and OG is probably just for bragging rights, who was the best team in Italy, right? But that 3rd place spot is going to be what everyone's going to be fighting for.
Yeah, it all comes down to it all seems like OG at this point are pretty much locked in. They're definitely locked in for the S group, and maybe just locked in for maybe 1st seed, but who knows? Maybe Twisted Mind, brings an upset. We'll find out tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our broadcast officially. We've had a blast casting all the 4 series for you today. Yumus, I'm going to miss you tomorrow on the broadcast. Hope you and the Yumus gang are, hyping this up for all of us in the chat tomorrow. And for the rest of y'all, same time tomorrow. We'll see you next time. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you next time.
I will be watching tomorrow. Good luck on the cast, Rafi. Shout out to all the people watching us. Make sure to go ahead and check out Rafa Cast at Rafa Cast here, and me at Yuma's Live here on YouTube. We are very excited for this series. I will be watching, don't worry, and the gang will be there to support you as well too. But that's gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you guys all for supporting the Major West League, and see you guys next time. Tune in tomorrow, same time.
Ciao.
Have a good night, everyone.
Blue team triple kill. Blue team
Mercy. Look at me, I'll be rising. Carry the season. Look out the time, gonna wibble. You never hesitate for another moment. But my bone is golden.
I'm invincible, just let him know. I can show you all the glory I own. To the drunk, go find a way to the palace. I'm waiting here. Go, live from how can we go? It ain't a way but turning back. Storm is coming, tired of your cold. It's my kingdom, fire blowing up.
We the kings, it's our honor showtime. We bound if I miss one, crash in pieces, you can cheat.
First blood, double trouble, then I take a pen, I kill. All you do is sweat and look at me still victory.
Say.
I've triggered my soul down.
For my pace.
We the champions, screaming, I'm invincible. Just let them know I can show you all the glory I own. To the drunk, go find a way to the palace. I'm waiting here. Go, live from how can we go? It ain't a way but turning back. Storm is coming, tired of your cold. It's my kingdom, fire blowing up.
We the kings, it's our honor showtime.
I feel it deep